Chapter 1454. A Natural Phenomenon, the Birth of a Supreme Treasure. Jun Changshao, who was in the sect of all times, kept his eyes fixed on the western sky. Like a blooming chrysanthemum, his eyes gradually glowed. As a person who loved to join in the fun and seek death, he naturally would not let go of this good opportunity. Brother, Gu Zhaoxi said, this is not the birth of a supreme treasure, this is the opening of the demonic fate. Demonic fate? Jun Changshao was confused. Gu Zhaoxi explained, 100,000 years ago, before the demon ancestor of the demonic tribe fell, he opened up an independent space with his supernatural power and stored all his life's collection in it. Therefore, it is called the land of demonic fate. Jun Changshao remembered that the demon emperor stored all kinds of martial arts in the demon valley, so he thought to himself, do people of the demonic path like to hide things before they die, and thus start a great era of searching in the future? Gu Zhaoxi said again, every 100 years, the demonic fate will open, and at that time, it will attract demonic cultivators from all over the world to their deaths. Their deaths? According to the statistics of the Realm Hall, only a single-digit number of martial artists who entered the land of demonic fate came out alive, so it is also called the land of demonic abyss. Those who came out alive all became successful in the future. No. Gu Zhaoxi said, they either died an unnatural death or lost their minds and became crazy. Jun Changshao was speechless, then what's the point of going in? I heard that the will of the demon ancestor exists in the land of demonic fate. If you can inherit it, it is equivalent to inheriting the entire demonic tribe, and you can command all the demonic cultivators in the world. Gu Zhaoxi said. Is that so? Jun Changshao was suddenly interested. Of course. Gu Zhaoxi said again, I also heard another version, that the land of demonic fate is an opportunity left behind by the demon ancestor to be resurrected. People can be resurrected after death. Jun Changshao was quite surprised at first, but when he saw the person in front of him, who had died in the lower realm and now had a different body and appearance, he suddenly realized that resurrection seemed to be a normal operation in this unscientific world. Gu Zhaoxi said, Brother, I heard that the demon ancestor of the demonic tribe had already entered the third step. It is still possible for him to be resurrected. Jun Changshao said in astonishment, that's a little impressive. The so-called third step referred to the divine arcanum, which was also the last level in the upper realm system. Those who had reached this level could transcend life and death, and would not be restricted by the heavenly axiom. That's not right. Jun Changshao said, since you've already entered the third step, how can you still die? Because the 10 great immortal sects also have heavenly secret experts, Gu Zhaoxi said. All right. Jun Changshao asked again, will the 10 great immortal sects just watch as the land of demonic affinity opens and wait for the demon ancestor to be resurrected? At first, I was quite puzzled. Later, I found out that the land of demonic affinity created by the demon ancestor had established a connection with the upper realm's origin. If it was forcefully destroyed, it would shake the foundation, so the 10 great immortal sects did not dare to act rashly, Gu Zhaoxi said. Fuck. Jun Changshao said, that's a ruthless person. Brother, you know so much about the demonic tribe, where did you find out about them? From the storyteller. Jun Changshao looked at the camera, the corner of his mouth twitching slightly, and said, why do I feel that this source of information is not reliable at all? Brother. Gu Zhaoxi said, didn't you just ask where the buried moon pavilion is? I can tell you with certainty now, this dark force will definitely go to the land of demonic affinity. Oh. Jun Changxiao's eyes lit up. Yao Menjing's recent abnormal behavior made him realize that there might be some unstable energy in her body, so for his disciples' safety, he had to find a way to get rid of it as soon as possible. The buried moon pavilion was a branch of the demonic tribe, and they knew where the demonic territory was, so he could capture them and ask them. Let's go. Jun Changshao said, to the land of demonic affinity. The system was speechless. The host, who had been keeping a low profile for a while, is finally looking for trouble again. I wonder if Shinran Tonggu is ready to take the blame now. We can't go. Why? Not a demonic cultivator. If a pure-blooded demonic cultivator leads the way, we should be able to sneak in. Patriarch. At this moment, Yao Menjing walked out of the space-time arcane realm and looked at the chrysanthemum-shaped dark clouds gathering in the distance, and said, I want to go and take a look. Jun Changshao thought for a while and said, okay. Huff. Huff. The chrysanthemum-shaped dark clouds gathering in the west started to rotate slowly like a machine. A strong demonic chi spread out, and it contained some kind of power, attracting demonic cultivators from all over the world. In the dark altar, the eyes of the black-robed elders sitting in the four directions of the boiling blood pool flashed with excitement. The opening of the land of demonic affinity this time might be the opportunity for our ancestors' resurrection. Someone said worriedly, I'm afraid the realm hall will interfere. Humph, the leader sneered. The realm is closely related to the origin of the upper realm. They can only watch helplessly as our ancestor reappears in the world. Oh right. Have you found the new connate demonic body? Still looking. Pass down the order. There's no need to look. Let them go to the land of demonic affinity. They should be able to find it there. Yes. Dark clouds gathered in the sky, and demonic chi spread throughout the world, causing half of the upper realm to fall into a rather somber atmosphere. All the major sects entered a state of alert because the opening of the land of demonic affinity was equivalent to a grand occasion for demonic cultivators. There was no telling what kind of trouble would occur. The realm hall even sent a large number of experts to the area where the realm was open to monitor the demonic cultivators' every move, afraid that they would gather and cause trouble. Although only demonic cultivators could enter the independent space opened by the demonic ancestor, it still attracted many itinerant cultivators to come and watch the show. The past deeds of the demonic ancestor were dug up again and became a hot topic. Demonic Affinity City. The city closest to the phenomenon. This used to be a very ordinary city. 100,000 years ago, the demonic ancestor opened up an independent space nearby with a supreme ability. Therefore, the demonic cultivators regarded it as a holy land, and even changed its name to Demonic Affinity. Nearly 80% of the permanent martial artists in Demonic Affinity City were demonic cultivators. The various businesses in the city were also related to demonic cultivators, such as martial arts, secret manuals, and so on. Demonic cultivators had strange personalities and bad tempers. Therefore, the city would often develop into a full-on brawl because of, what are you looking at? What are you looking at? This was not the case. On the wide main street, there were several places where people rolled up their sleeves to fight. When the onlookers saw this, they would even clap and praise. Patriarch Li Qingyang, who walked past two demonic cultivators, frowned and said, Demonic Affinity City is so chaotic. It's normal. Jun Changshao said, after all, it's a gathering place for demonic cultivators. Half a month after the phenomenon appeared, he brought a group of people to Demonic Affinity City. Accompanying him was his sworn brother, Gu Zhaoxi, as well as the 5 core male disciples of the sect, Li Qingyang, Su Xiaoma, Xiao Ziji, Yi Xingchen, and He Wudi. Of course. There was also Yao Menjing. As the junior sister of the sect, she was protected in the middle by her senior brothers. Brother. Gu Zhaoxi said, the land of demonic affinity still needs some time to open. We can find an inn to rest first. Jun Changshao nodded and was about to lead the group to an inn on the street ahead when they were blocked by a few muscular martial artists. This place has been sealed. Quickly take a detour. Boom. Suddenly, there was an explosion. A few muscular men were sent flying and then fell hundreds of feet away. They were in so much pain that they clutched their stomachs and rolled on the ground. Whoosh! Whoosh! Gu Zhaoxi was in a bombardment stance. His right fist gathered explosive power. His black hair danced in the wind as his eyes flashed coldly. Remember, you must be polite when you speak to my brother. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched as he mentally broke down. This guy's ability to cause trouble is not inferior to mine. Chapter 1455. Why were those burly men blocking the road? Because they were fighting with another group. In order not to be disturbed, they simply blocked the road. With Jun Changxiao's relatively low-key personality, he might not cause trouble and choose to take a detour. However, Gu Zhaoxi, who had followed him, was unhappy. If you speak rudely in front of my brother, you will definitely be beaten. Therefore, not only did he send a few burly men who were blocking the way flying, he also knocked down the dozens of people who were fighting and stacked them into a mountain. Sitting on top of them, he lit an electronic cigar and said, "Brother, we can pass now." Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. My brother is indeed a traitor. He has indeed fought with the Jia Hull before. His temper is irritable. As the saying goes, the soft is afraid of the hard, and the hard is afraid of the unreasonable. When Gu Zhaoxi dealt with the two groups of people blocking the road, the other martial artists on the main street immediately looked at him with fear. Who is this person? Judging from his decisiveness, he must be a ruthless character. The people who were beaten are disciples of the Chaos Black Sect and Extreme Abyss Black Sect. They definitely won't let this go. There's a show to watch. The land of demon affinity still needed some time to open. Therefore, the martial artists in Demon Affinity City naturally hoped to watch a good show when they were bored. Not long after, the good show came. The Chaos Profound Sect and the Extreme Abyss Profound Sect appeared on the main street in an aggressive manner before stopping in front of an inn at the same time. These two demonic sects had a feud with each other. It was like fire and water between the Sword Black Sect and the Sharp Blade Black Sect. However, they had temporarily put aside their feud and locked their target on the group of people who had just entered the inn. Therefore, the friendship between the sects depended on the help of the sect of all times. The people who beat up my sect just now, hurry up and come out. A fierce-looking middle-aged man from the Chaos Black Sect shouted in a deep voice. Revolving Core Realm. This is a big problem. Let's hide further away. The passers-by were worried that they would be affected and retreated far away. The nearby streets were suddenly empty, and the atmosphere was quite tense. Creak. At this moment, the closed door of the inn was pushed open. Thud. Ta. Li Qingyang, Xiao Zuiji, and the other four walked out in black robes. Then, they stood in a straight line with their arms crossed. Hoo-hoo. A cold wind blew from the other end of the street, instantly sweeping up the leaves and dust. On the quiet street, the five of them faced off against over 100 people. It was a pity that Li Tian was not with them. Otherwise, he would have definitely recorded this scene and mounted it in the sect's library. TSK. The martial artists of the two sects immediately sneered. They had seen a lot of pretentious people, but they had never seen such a pretentious person. Elder. One of the martial artists said, it wasn't them who did it. It was a young man around 12 or 13 years old. The middle-aged man said indifferently, hurry up and hand over the culprit, or else. His eyes flashed with killing intent as he said, all of you will die here. Heh. Jun Changxiao's voice came from the second floor of the inn. You talk big. Gu Zhaoxi had attracted trouble the moment he entered the city, but don't forget that Go Sheng was not someone who was afraid of trouble. Since the two sects had come looking for him, he would definitely accompany them to the end. Therefore, he lazily ordered, get rid of these annoying flies. Yes. Li Qingyang and the rest shouted in unison. They pulled off their black robes in unison, revealing the fashionable sect uniform with the word ancient carved on the chest. Ancient? Someone exclaimed, sect of all times. That's the sect where the patriarch Jun Changxiao is Zhenren Tonggu's personal disciple. That's right. Fuck, a big shot. As the saying goes, when a man achieves the Tao, even his chickens and dogs ascend to the heavens. Go Xing had an awesome master, so his status was still quite high in the eyes of ordinary martial artists. After confirming the identities of the 5 people in front of them, the Chaos Mystic Sect and the Extreme Abyss Mystic Sect's martial artists were horrified. They howled in their hearts, "It's over, we've kicked an iron plate." Even the Lingwei True Sect did not dare to provoke Shinren Tonggu, let alone the 2 mystic demonic sects. Therefore, when Li Qingyang and the rest showed the uniform that represented the sect of all times, they were instantly stunned and terrified. What should they do? Whoosh! Whoosh! Just as everyone was pondering, Yi Xingchen seemed to have transformed into a wild bull as he charged over. His first cycle revolving core cultivation erupted, causing the 2 sect elders to tremble in fear. Boom! 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 A fight in the city began. 10 minutes later. The hundreds of demonic sect martial artists gathered outside the inn were either holding their stomachs and howling in pain or lying on the ground, pretending to be dead. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the other 4 turned into black shadows as if demons had descended. Brutal. Heartless. The passers-by hiding in the distance exclaimed in their hearts. As a witness, if they were to use a word to describe the battle just now, it would be absolute suppression. Thud. The elegant Jun Changshao walked out of the inn and sat on the chair that Xiao Ziji had prepared in advance. He interlocked his fingers and said, "Tie them all up and let the 2 sects pay the ransom." Yes. Li Qingyang and the rest tied up 100 people and temporarily locked them in the inn stable. They also took away their interspatial rings in advance. The entire process could be said to be very skillful and professional. "Brother," Gu Zhaoxi said, "if it were me, I would definitely kill them all." Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "Everyone is on the same path, so it's inevitable that there will be some friction. Sometimes, don't go too far." Understood. Although Gu Zhaoxi said that, he muttered in his heart, "This brother of mine is a bit benevolent." Because it was a street fight, the news of the Chaos Sect and Extreme Abyss Sect being abused quickly spread throughout Magic Affinity City. Especially when the 5 people were disciples of the sect of all times, it caused a huge commotion. These 2 demonic sects have kicked an iron plate. I heard that the young man sitting on the chair is the patriarch of the sect of all times, Jun Changshao. Heroes indeed come from the young. Even the Realm Hall wouldn't dare to offend Senior Tong Gu's personal disciple. This matter tells us that we can't be ostentatious outside, and we can't casually provoke black-robed martial practitioners. Because who knows what great identity they have. While everyone was discussing, the representatives of the Chaos Sect and Extreme Abyss Sect came to the inn and sincerely prepared money to ransom them. Everyone. Jun Changshao was still sitting outside the inn. He said, 100,000 Xian stones per head. Ah! The upper echelons of the 2 sects were dumbfounded. Gu Zhaoxi, who was standing at the side, was also dumbfounded. 100,000 Xian stones. Wouldn't 100 heads be 10 million? Heavens, my brother is so evil. Of course. Jun Changshao said, "This money may be a bit too much for you, but compared to the land of magic affinity that is about to open, it shouldn't be much. After all, every extra person that enters will increase the chances of obtaining opportunities." The upper echelons of the 2 sects had ugly expressions. Jun Changshao said again, "If you miss this time, you'll have to wait another 100 years. Jun Patriarch. The Chaos Sect's upper echelon said, "Can it be cheaper? My sect really didn't bring that much money." "Sure." Jun Changshao said, "Seeing that we're both sects, I'll give you a 9% discount. If you really don't have the money, you can write an IOU. 9%. The passers-by rolled their eyes and thought, this face is so cheap. The land of magic affinity might open at any time, and a large number of people were detained by the sect of all times. After a difficult choice, the Chaos Sect and the Extreme Abyss Sect could only fork out 3 million Xian stones each and write an IOU for the rest. After everything was settled, Jun Changshao let them go and said with cupped hands, "Happy cooperation." The upper echelons of the two sects almost vomited blood. Seeing his brother earn 6 million Xian stones in a short time, Gu Zhaoxi's eyes flashed. He thought to himself, I learned it. I learned it. Chapter 1456. Jun Changshao was indeed very merciful and did not kill the martial artists of the two sections. However, his heart was very black. He asked for 100,000 Xian stones per head and easily earned a few million. Gu Zhaoxi was convinced. He deeply realized that money was actually so easy to earn. Brother. He clasped his hands and said in admiration, Brother, I have benefited today. Jun Changshao put his hand on his shoulder and smiled, learn more from me. You will definitely not lack money in the future. Okay. Gu Zhaoxi's eyes lit up. Although he was not very interested in money, since it was so easy to earn, he would definitely give it a try. Sigh. The system sighed, another person has been led astray and is about to walk on a path of no return. The host is indeed a deceiving person. After the two sects paid the ransom, Magic Fate City suddenly became peaceful. There were very few martial artists fighting on the streets. The reason was that they were worried that they would accidentally provoke the sect of all times and be blackmailed for Xian stones. However, the next day, Gu Zhaoxi, who was inspired by his brother, swaggered out of the inn and blocked two demonic cultivators who were shopping. He pointed at his nose and said, Come, beat me up. Li Qingyang and Su Xiaomo, who were following behind, almost fell to the ground. This martial uncle was a bit strange. The two demonic cultivators who were blocked were stunned. Especially when they knew that the other party was from the sect of all times. They definitely would not dare to attack, so they hurriedly chose to take a detour. Pa! Pa! Gu Zhaoxi grabbed their shoulders and said with a cold gaze, If you don't hit me, I will hit you. Domineering, ruthless. Brother! One of the demonic cultivators was about to cry, We don't seem to have offended you, right? Stop talking nonsense. Gu Zhaoxi shouted, Hurry up and hit me. Facing such a strange request and being forcefully restrained, the two demonic cultivators had no choice. They could only raise their fists and lightly hit each other's chest. Thump. 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 Gu Zhaoxi took a few steps back, he clutched his chest and said, Such profound true qi, your cultivation bases are not below mine. Li Qingyang's expression became interesting. Su Xiaomo couldn't help but complain in his heart, martial uncle's acting skills are really too eye-catching. If he goes undercover, his identity will definitely be exposed in minutes. No. Gu Zhaoxi pretended to be in pain and said, I'm already heavily injured. Give me 100,000 magnetite each as medical expenses. Not only had he learned Jun Changshao's moves, but he had also modified them, using the excuse of being injured to extort medical fees. Sure enough, some people were very talented in certain aspects. The two fiendish cultivators immediately understood that they had been forcefully extorted. Big brother. We don't have that many profound stones. Gu Zhaoxi had chosen the wrong target. After all, these two demonic cultivators did not belong to any sect, nor did they have any backing. Asking for 100,000 would definitely be an astronomical figure. How many? Only 1,000 profound stones, then hurry up and take it out. Are you waiting for me to die on the spot? Here. The two demonic cultivators hurriedly handed over all the money in their pockets, then quickly left the scene of the accident while howling in their hearts, This world is too sinister. Gu Zhaoxi said delightedly, Money is really easy to earn. Li Qingyang and Su Xiaomo looked at each other. They were on the verge of a mental breakdown. At least the sect leader said that there was a good reason for his actions. Uncle Master's actions are blatant extortion. Ouch! My foot. Gu Zhaoxi lay on the ground, both hands covering his boots with a pained expression. From his posture, it was obvious that he had been hit. The passing cultivators all stopped to take a look and almost spat out a mouthful of blood. This was because standing in front of that fellow was a 3 to 5-year-old child, holding a stick of candied hawthorn in his hand and staring at him with wide, round eyes. This uncle hit me, why did he fall down? Li Qingyang and Su Xiaomo, who were sitting in front of the tea stall, hurriedly turned their faces away, showing an expression that said, "We don't know this guy." Brat! What are you looking at? Hurry up and pay. Wu! The child was immediately scared to tears. In just a short morning, Gu Zhaoxi had extorted more than 20 victims, ranging from the elderly to the young children. Inside the inn, Jun Changshao stood at the window, looking up at the blooming dark cloud, and thought to himself, when will it open? Soon. Yao Menjing said, this disciple has already felt it. Oh. Jun Changshao was rather surprised. Creak. At this time, the door was pushed open, and Gu Zhaoxi walked in excitedly. Then, he drank a bowl of tea and grinned, "Brother, I made money." "How much?" 2 to 300,000 profound stones. TSK. Jun Chang praised with a smile, "Brother, you have talent." Patriarch. At this time, Li Qingyang sent a sound transmission from outside, "The inn is surrounded." Jun Changshao hurriedly looked through the window and saw that the entire street was filled with martial practitioners dressed in all kinds of clothes. Among them, there were elderly men and young children. All of them were staring at the inn with righteous indignation. What's going on? Go Sheng was dumbfounded. Su Xiaoma hurriedly told him what happened in the morning. After learning of Gu Zhaoxi's forceful extortion, Jun Changshao held his head and said, "Brother, you're screwing me over." Fuck. You still dare to cause trouble. Gu Zhaoxi was about to jump down. Jun Changshao hurriedly stopped him and personally walked out of the inn. He cupped his hands and said, "Everyone, my sect's disciple is in the wrong. I apologize on his behalf and return the extorted profound stones." The martial practitioners gathered outside the inn weren't strong. Li Qingyang and the others could take care of them with a finger. However, Go Sheng wasn't an unpardonable villain, and the sect of all times wasn't an evil sect. Therefore, he definitely wouldn't take ill-gotten gains. Please remember. Jun Changshao's worldview might be skewed sometimes, but he was still righteous when it came to certain matters. After the victims got their money back, they naturally didn't dare to make a fuss about it and left. Brother. After returning to his room, Jun Changshao advised earnestly, "A gentleman extorts money in a proper way. Don't deliberately try to extort money in the future. Otherwise, if word gets out, it won't be good for the sect of all times and my master's reputation." Understood. Gu Zhaoxi said rather shamefully, "I will definitely pay attention next time." The next day. The streets of demonic Affinity City were even more deserted than yesterday. Many martial practitioners hid in their residences and didn't dare to come out, afraid that they would be extorted by the sect of all times disciples. Whoosh! 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 In the sky not far away from the city, the chrysanthemum-shaped vortex spun faster and faster. The outline of a door gradually took shape. Is this the demon gate? Jun Changshao thought to himself. He had already learned from Gu Zhaoxi that the entrance to the land of demonic affinity was a big black door. Only when it completely appeared and opened would it announce the opening of the fortuitous opportunity. Patriarch. Yao Menjing said, "I feel some kind of power summoning a disciple again." She wasn't the only one. When the outline of the demon gate gradually formed, all the demonic cultivators in the city felt it. The desire to enter the land of demonic affinity became stronger and stronger. Patriarch. Li Qingyang transmitted his voice, Martial Uncle is fighting with someone else. No way. Jun Changxiao's face broke down. Did that guy run out to extort money again? Ha! The system said, the host's sworn brother is indeed a troublemaker. Chapter 1457. Half an hour ago. Gu Zhaoxi had nothing to do and was strolling on the streets. However, he behaved himself and did not deliberately try to extort money. However, just as he reached the city gate, he saw a group of tall horses with flames under their feet walking in. The martial practitioners on the horses were dressed in black robes, making it difficult to see their faces clearly. Jun Changxiao also liked to wear black robes when he went out, mainly because he felt it was very cool. However, these people were different. They had their heads lowered, as if they had completely merged with the black of their clothes. A strong sense of mystery emanated from them. Big shots. Gu Zhaoxi muttered in his heart. Because he had been criticized by Jun Changxiao, he did not plan to extort money. He planned to go somewhere else for a stroll. Hiss. The neighing of horses came, and the group stopped in front of him. The leader raised his head slightly, revealing an extremely cold face, and said, "Get lost." These two words were emotionless, as if he was a professionally trained assassin. At this time, anyone with a bit of eyesight could tell that these people were definitely not easy to deal with. They would definitely run away, but the one standing in front of them was Gu Zhaoxi. He dismissed the idea of going somewhere else for a stroll. With his hands on his hips, he tilted his head and said, "What did you say?" "Get lost." Boom! Gu Zhaoxi took a step forward and poured true spirit energy into his hand. He fiercely smashed the back of the tall horse, causing the latter's flesh and blood to fly. The expensive athlete's foot horse died just like that. Thump thump thump. The black-robed martial practitioner staggered and landed on the ground. He frowned slightly and said, "So it's an expert. Old brother said that a gentleman extorts money in a proper way. You humiliated me just now, so you need to compensate me with 1,000,000 profound stones." Gu Zhaoxi said indifferently. These black-robed people's identities were definitely not simple. He had to demand an exorbitant price. Extorting money? The black-robed elder said gloomily, "You're courting death." Whoosh! Whoosh! In an instant, the dozen or so companions sitting on the tall horses flew down and surrounded Gu Zhaoxi with some kind of profound formation. These people's faces were pale, as if they had not seen the sun for many years. Their eyes were not only cold, but also flashed with an extremely strong killing intent. Without a doubt, they were demonic cultivators. Actually, there was no lack of scary-looking demonic Dao people in Demon Affinity City. However, to be able to be this demonic was still very rare. "What is it?" Gu Zhaoxi said indifferently, "You want to outnumber me? Alright, 1,000,000 for each head." Under the influence of Gou Sheng's worldview, he could not wait for someone to take the initiative to find trouble with him, and then take the opportunity to earn a small sum of money. Set up the formation. The leading black-robed martial artist said coldly, "Capture him." Shwa! Shwa! More than a dozen of his subordinates stepped out like a graceful dragon, and quickly formed complicated hand seals. "Tsk," Gu Zhaoxi sneered. Buzz buzz buzz. In an instant, 5 realms of flowing light converged around him, forming a small cage that trapped him within. Some martial artists saw this from the windows of the buildings on both sides and thought to themselves, "This is definitely an expert. Ha ha ha. That little guy who tried to blackmail me yesterday has finally kicked an iron plate." Seeing Gu Zhaoxi trapped in the array formation, the martial artists hiding in the room were naturally overjoyed. They all agreed that evil people should be dealt with by evil people. This is troublesome. Li Qingyang on the other street saw this and hurriedly sent a voice transmission. "Patriarch, Martial Uncle is fighting with someone." Tisk, Gu Zhaoxi, who was trapped in the flowing light cage, smirked even more disdainfully. Then, he infused his chi of true spirit into his fists and immediately began to bombard the barrier. His fists were as dense as a machine gun. Boom boom boom. Boom boom boom. However, after a series of explosions, the flowing light barrier was still standing in front of him, unharmed. Fuck. Gu Xiaoxi's eyes flashed with anger. Previously, he was restrained by Empress Ling Yao's special mystique, and now he was trapped by a group of people. This made him very unhappy. Kid. The leading martial artist in the black robe said lightly. Even if you are strong enough to pierce through the sky, it is useless in front of the 9-yin seal formation. 9-yin seal formation. Gu Xiaoxi's eyes flashed with surprise. He had heard of this formation before. It was a formation created by a top demonic cultivator tens of thousands of years ago. However, after his death, it had been lost in the upper realm. Who are you? To be able to use the long-lost sealing formation, Gu Xiaoxi immediately judged that this was not something an ordinary person could do. Perhaps it was a powerful demonic cultivator. Look. As long as the author did not forcefully lower his intelligence, he still had some brains. The leading martial artist in the black robe was not interested in wasting time with him. He said lightly, "Shrink the formation." Swoosh. Swoosh. The subordinates scattered in different areas formed hand seals again. The cage-like barrier began to close in on the central area, and the space became narrower. Gu Xiaoxi naturally would not sit still and wait for death. He gathered his strength and attacked again. However, every time his strength came into contact with the barrier, it was as if his strength had melted into cotton. There was no damage at all. Swoosh. Swoosh. The four walls were getting closer and closer, and the space was getting narrower. There was no other way. Gu Xiaoxi looked up and shouted, "Brother, come and save me." Swoosh. As soon as he said that, the camera suddenly turned to the other side. Under the accompaniment of the super loud BGM, a colorful stream of light dragged an arc and burst out, sticking close to the ground. Watch out! Boom! The sealing formation that was about to shrink to its limit was hit by an external force and suddenly exploded on the spot. The aftershock of the explosion spread to several shops. Thump, thump, thump. The 10 or so martial artists who set up the formation retreated. After stabilizing themselves, they looked at the end of the street in front of them. Thud. Thud. At the place where the colorful stream of light was left, Jun Changshao strode over with 5 disciples. Among them, Yi Xingchen was responsible for changing the sound system. Swoosh. At this moment, Gu Xiaoxi rushed out of the explosion fog. His eyes were red like a demon as he pounced on the leading martial artist in the black robe. He shouted angrily, "Did I give you face?" Boom. His right fist, which was filled with anger and true spirit, directly hit the opponent's abdomen. It instantly caved in and his eyes widened. Bang! The clothes on his back burst and protruded out. The energy ripples were visible to the naked eye. Gu Xiaoxi's punch was quite powerful. Although the leading martial artist in the black robe was still standing in the same place, his internal organs were seriously damaged and directly turned from a full blood state to a residual blood state. Branch Master. More than 10 of his subordinates exclaimed and were about to burst out with their cultivation and rush over. However, just as they were about to move, they saw Jun Changshao appear in front of Gu Xiaoxi. He gently raised the desert eagle and pressed the muzzle against the leading martial artist's temple. He smiled gently and said, "Everyone, let's talk nicely." Although they didn't know what the shiny silver thing was, they could tell from the action that it was holding the branch master hostage. Thus, they all stood in place and didn't dare to act rashly. At this moment, the sharp-eyed Gu Xiaoxi noticed something hanging on the waist of the leading martial artist in the black robe. He took it down and checked it. He blurted out, "Brother, they're from Buried Moon Pavilion." Chapter 1458. Oh. Jun Changshao took the palm-sized token and found that there were no words on it. There was only a crescent moon carved on it, which looked a little eerie. He asked, "Are you sure? The buried moon pavilion is the enemy of the Jia Hall. No one would dare to imitate it and use it to swindle others." Gu Zhaoxi said, "Moreover, only this mysterious organization can set up the long-lost demon Dao array." Jun Changshao believed him immediately and smiled. "I've searched high and low for it, only to find it by chance." Their main purpose in coming to Moyuan City was to capture people from the buried moon pavilion and find the location of the sealed demonic region. Not only had they captured them, but they had also captured a branch leader. They should have real power and status in the organization. The buried moon pavilion? No wonder it looks so scary. Gu Zhaoxi's voice was very loud just now. All the martial artists hiding in the room heard it, and their eyes were filled with fear. In the eyes of many demon cultivators, the buried moon pavilion was a branch of the demonic tribe, so their demon Dao cultivation was more orthodox than theirs. Humph. One of the martial artists in black said coldly, "Since you know who we are, why don't you release the branch leader quickly? Since the buried moon pavilion dared to go against the Jia Hall, they must be a super powerful force." The various martial artists and sects would not provoke them, for fear of being set up in the future. Unfortunately, Jun Changshao had come for this organization. Since he had captured a branch leader, he would not let him go. He thought for a moment and said, "Do you know who I am?" "Who?" "Empress Ling Yao's people." When he said this, Jun Changshao's expression did not change. Gu Zhaoxi almost believed him. More than 10 black-robed martial artists' faces turned ugly. Empress Ling Yao represented the Jia Hall. He was her man, so he also represented the Jia Hall. Now that the branch leader was being held hostage, he would probably be brought back to face punishment. The situation was not good. For them to think this way, it was exactly what Goshen wanted. That woman who tricked Yi Xingchen and instigated my sworn brother to be a spy. If I don't find an opportunity to make some arrangements, how can I live up to the title of the most handsome scheming king in history? Of course, such a cheap trick might not be able to cause any trouble for Empress Ling Yao. But Jun Changshao's plan was simple. "I'll play a little trick to disgust you. Who knows, maybe I'll get something out of it." It didn't matter how many tricks there were, as long as there were enough of them, they would be effective. Shwa! A black-robed martial artist hurriedly took 2 steps back and raised something that looked like a fire starter, saying, "A cloud-piercing arrow, and thousands of soldiers and horses will come to meet us." Swish! Flowing light spurted out, shooting straight into the clouds. "Brother!" Gu Zhaoxi hurriedly said, "This is the buried moon pavilion's communication signal. I've heard the storyteller say that as long as the members within a radius of several thousand miles see the light, they will rush over as fast as they can." Jun Changshao had a mental breakdown. "Brother, the storyteller you're talking about can't be the all-knowing man in Jianghu, right?" Swish! Swish! Just then, from the 4 districts of Magic Affinity City, streaks of flowing light shot over. Some of them were waiters at inns, while others were passers-by. Powerful demonic chi gradually gathered around them, and they proudly hung crescent moon badges on their chests. That's right. They were all from the buried moon pavilion. As a force that hid in the dark and fought with the realm hall, they would definitely not appear in the open. So, most of their members hid in the streets. This was the most normal thing. Tisk, tisk. Gu Zhaoxi said in surprise, "So there are so many people from the buried moon pavilion hiding in this city." Wait. Among the hundreds of people who came, there were more than 20 familiar faces. "Uncle Master," Li Qingyang said in shock, "you've scammed them before." That's right. Among the buried moon pavilion martial artists who flew over, many had been scammed before. For example, the two demonic cultivators who gave 1,000 magnetite stones, and the child who ate the candied haws. Of course. They looked very weak yesterday. Now that they wore badges and revealed their true identities, their bodies and eyes were instantly filled with powerful killing intent. The weakest of them was at the middle void-piercing realm. From this, it could be seen that their acting skills were superb. There were no flaws at all. Gu Xiaoxi turned stiffly to the camera and howled, "Is there a setting where I'll definitely scam Buried Moon Pavilion?" Swoosh! Swoosh! The distress signal was still burning in the sky, but the street Jun Changshao was on was already surrounded by hundreds of Buried Moon Pavilion members, and there were many outside the city who were rushing over. Killing intent, everywhere. Tisk, tisk. Jun Changshao said, "Isn't it just capturing someone? They actually caused such a big commotion." "Brother." Gu Xiaoxi calmed down and said telepathically, "The Buried Moon Pavilion's strength is not bad. A wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. Let's quickly take this guy away." If there were only a few hundred people standing on the street, he was not worried. He was only afraid that the other party would have reinforcements. If they sent a few ninth transformation cultivators, the situation would definitely be dangerous. "Okay." Jun Changshao said, "Retreat." Since he had captured the person, he was not interested in fighting. The most important thing was to quickly take this branch leader away and interrogate him about the exact location of the demonic region seal. What a pity. It was a little late. Because outside Demonic Affinity City, four streams of light flew over from different directions and then floated above the street. Four black-robed elders with bulging temples and cold gazes appeared. Whoosh, whoosh. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Four powerful demonic auras spread wildly and instantly enveloped the entire city. The killing intent was intense to the extreme, as if it had instantly turned this place into hell. "Brother." Gu Xiaoxi frowned and said telepathically, "They're all ninth transformation cultivators." Jun Changshao thought to himself, as expected of an organization that dared to fight with the Realm Hall for tens of thousands of years. They can casually summon so many top-notch transformation core experts. The dozen or so black-robed cultivators who used the sealing formation were not very strong. With Go Sheng and his brother's strength, they could easily beat them. But now that 4 ninth transformation cultivators came, the situation immediately reversed. "Brother, what should we do?" Gu Xiaoxi was a little flustered. He was not worried about himself, but he was worried that Jun Changshao and his disciples would not be able to escape successfully. Swoosh! Go Sheng waved his hand and took out the pocket-sized hard-to-keep blade. He said, "If there's no other choice, we can only start a massacre." He did not panic because it was not like he had never encountered such a situation where he was surrounded by experts. In the end, if there was no other way, then he would crush the opening seal talisman and turn into a killing maniac. Moreover, after obtaining the modification stone of hard-to-keep blade, Jun Changshao had not upgraded. He was also considering whether the third form could be used in the upper realm. Since there were so many people now, it was just nice to use it to test. What if it doesn't work? The system asked. "It's fine." Jun Changshao said, "I still have the escape talisman and flight talisman that the big gift gave me." The system was silent. Swoosh! Swoosh! Xiao! More members of the Buried Moon Pavilion surged in from all directions outside the city. Some of them were powerful, and some of them were riding on flying treasures. In an instant, the number of people gathered in the sky above the street broke through from a few hundred to 1,000. The combined demonic chi pressed down, causing the residents in the city to tremble. The opening of the land of demonic affinity would definitely set off a new round of bloodshed. But who would have thought that it would happen before it even opened? The more people come. Jun Changshao played with hard-to-keep blade and thought, the more people die. Chapter 1459. More and more Buried Moon Pavilion martial artists gathered in Demon Affinity City. From the current situation, it seemed that there were more than 10,000 of them. Powerful demonic aura enveloped the entire city, causing the spectators to realize that a bloodbath was about to unfold soon. What should they do? Of course, they had to run away. Therefore, when the Buried Moon Pavilion people flew over, the martial artists inside rushed out of the city, afraid that they would be implicated in the fight. Jun Changshao sat on the street, playing with hard-to-keep saber in his hand. At this moment, he desperately hoped that more members of Buried Moon Pavilion would come. If he killed all of them and spread the news in the upper world, he might be able to gain a lot of reputation points. Moreover, using hard-to-keep saber was a loss when there were few people. It was only a gain when there were many people. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others stood behind the patriarch. Facing thousands of Buried Moon Pavilion members, they were not afraid at all. Instead, they smiled calmly. This state of mind, Gu Zhaoxi secretly praised, too powerful. If he had witnessed the scene of Jun Changshao using hard-to-retract blade to kill, he would definitely have acted very calmly. Whoosh! 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 Violent demonic aura swept through the city. A great battle was about to break out. Kid! A Buried Moon Pavilion Rank 9 expert said coldly, "Let go of branch leader Lu, and we can leave your corpse intact." Heh! Jun Changshao sneered, "I can let him go, but you have to kneel down and kowtow." That Rank 9 expert's eyes were filled with intense killing intent. He said angrily, "Reckless guy." Whoosh! Whoosh! The Buried Moon Pavilion members gathered in the sky released their cultivation. The intense demonic aura became even denser, as if it had turned into roaring ghosts. When there were many people on one side, aura suppression was the most effective. If the 100,000 disciples of the sect of all times were here, they would definitely release their aura to suppress the target. Otherwise, how could they show their strength in numbers? TSK, Jun Changshao snorted. It was not like he had not seen such a scene before. If they could intimidate him and his disciples with their imposing manner, wouldn't sect leader Wang, who was in heaven, laugh at them? Jun Changshao had a hostage in his hands. Although more and more people were gathering in the Zhangyue Pavilion, they didn't attack immediately. Therefore, the two sides were in a temporary stalemate. However, just wasting time wouldn't solve the problem. Therefore, after the few ninth transformation stage experts exchanged glances, they immediately decided on a plan where two of them would be in charge of fainting while the other two would be in charge of snatching the person away. However, just as they were about to make their move and Jun Changshao was about to crush the talisman to open the seal, the sound of footsteps could be heard coming from the corridor of the city gate. In the environment of devil qi and cold wind, the sound was originally very weak, but it seemed to contain some kind of power that penetrated everyone's eardrums and merged into the depths of their souls. Suddenly, it became very rhythmic, very clear and loud. Everyone subconsciously turned their heads to look. Ta! Ta! The sound of footsteps was still coming from the dark passage. After a short while, a middle-aged man with disheveled hair in a slightly shabby robe walked out. This person's complexion was haggard, and there was a stone coffin on his back. The coffin was bound by heavy iron chains and special charms, and it looked a little frightening. Corpse carrier. Gu Zhaoxi said with a serious gaze, "Ryu Sinan." As soon as he said this, the expressions of the Zhangyue Pavilion members gathered in the sky changed drastically, and there was a look of fear in their eyes. Among them, there were 4 ninth transformation Dan stage experts. Cough, cough. The haggard middle-aged man gently took out a handkerchief, then covered his mouth and coughed a few times. He said in a bleak voice, "What a heavy devil qi." The handkerchief was exquisitely carved with patterns, and it was obviously for a woman. Seeing this, Jun Changshao felt a chill in his heart. He said, "This guy doesn't have any special fetishes, does he?" "I heard from the scholar," Gu Zhaoxi said, "the exquisite handkerchief that Ryu Sinan carries with him was used by his deceased wife when she was alive." Jun Changshao said in surprise, "Aren't upper realm cultivators single?" "He had a wife." Gu Zhaoxi looked at the stone coffin from this angle and said with a serious gaze, "She died for some unknown reason and was sealed in a stone coffin made of special materials. He carried her around the world all the time, so he was also called the corpse carrier." Fuck. Jun Changxiao's eyes widened. This guy really does have a special fetish. Little guy. At this moment, Ryu Sinan, who was standing at the city gate, corrected him. "My beloved wife is still alive, but she's temporarily in a deep sleep. Sooner or later, she'll wake up and accompany me forever." Gu Zhaoxi was silent. His wife was clearly dead, but he was still trying to numb himself. No wonder he was called the most infatuated man in the world by the upper realm. "Brother." Jun Changshao said, "The Zhangyue Pavilion members seem to be very afraid of him. That's because of his other identity." "What identity?" "The greatest nemesis of the Devil Path, one of the three great devil exterminators of the Jie Hall." Devil exterminator. This is a special profession that exists within the Jie Hall. They don't listen to the Hall Master's orders, and they only have one mission on a daily basis, which is to eradicate the Devil Path martial cultivators who are heartless and do evil. Jun Changshao understood. "Brother." Gu Zhaoxi said, "I'm afraid this person has already entered the truth-seeking realm." "Is he that strong?" Jun Changshao was surprised. Previously, when the various clans surrounded the sect of all times, the Jie Hall had also sent people over, but they behaved submissively in front of Master, making him think that they were not very capable. In the end, a devil exterminator with a cultivation base of the truth-seeking realm came. The system said, the Jie Hall controls the upper realm. If they don't have strong combat power, how could they have existed for so long? That's true. Jun Changxiao's impression of the Jie Hall had changed. He thought that it was similar to the Navy headquarters, where a few general-level powerhouses might appear one day. "Young man." Ryu Sinan looked at him and said, "Since you're Empress Lingyao's man, I won't let you be bullied." Jun Changxiao was a little confused. He had casually said something, and this guy believed him. Go Sheng's brain reacted quickly. He quickly puffed out his chest and said, "The Jie Hall is worried that the Devil Path will cause trouble when the Land of Demon Affinity opens, so they sent me here to maintain stability." "I see." Ryu Sinan's eyes showed a hint of understanding. Although he was a member of the Jie Hall, he had been out there punishing evil Devil Path martial cultivators all year round. Naturally, he could not tell Jun Changxiao's true identity. Of course. That was not important. What was important was that this person was surrounded by the buried moon pavilion that he had been investigating all this time. Whether from the perspective of a colleague or an outsider, he had to help him out, because this was the real, boom. The heavy stone coffin fell to the ground. The cloak with the word chivalry carved on it fluttered behind his back. He combed his messy black hair with both hands, and his haggard face suddenly became energetic. Devil Exterminator Ryu Sinan is here to enforce the law. Devil Path villains, surrender. Silence. Absolute silence. Because, when he changed his outfit, the buried moon pavilion members gathered in the sky above the street, including the 4 9th Transformation Dan realm experts, had already disappeared without a trace. Jun Changxiao was speechless. "Brother, can you not pose when you're capturing people? Do you think you can escape?" Ryu Sinan smiled coldly. He clenched his hands into fists and smashed them into the air. With a bang, the space suddenly rippled and quickly enveloped the entire Demon Affinity City, interweaving into a wok-shaped flowing light boundary. Fuck. Jun Changxiao's eyes widened. It's just as the storyteller said. Gu Chaonan said in shock. This guy has the spirit of space and can quickly seal off an area. Jun Changshao said in his heart, brother, where is this storyteller you mentioned? I really want to go and pay him a visit now. Whoosh! Lu Sinan spread out his hands as if he was grabbing the space. Then, he clasped his hands together. The enchantment that permeated the city quickly shrank and bound the thousands of fleeing members of the Buried Moon Pavilion together. They were squeezed face to face. Jun Changshao said in shock, awesome. Chapter 1460. He hammered the air with his fists, forming a barrier that resembled a plastic wrap. Then, he elegantly grabbed the fleeing members of the Buried Moon Pavilion and tied them up. Jun Changshao was immediately stunned by his actions. What shocked him the most was that he and his disciple were clearly also inside the boundary, but when the boundary closed, it flashed past and did not affect them. The system praised, this person's control of the power of space has already reached perfection. Amazing! Jun Changshao's eyes were filled with respect. Without affecting the innocent, he caught all the members of the Buried Moon Pavilion. Wait, the 4-9 transformation dance stage cultivators seem to have slipped away. Sigh. Ryu Sinan shook his head and said, for escaped. The corner of Jun Changshao's mouth twitched, and he was speechless. If you didn't pose in the beginning, they wouldn't have been able to escape. Young man. Ryu Sinan said, you're safe now. Thank you for saving me. Jun Changshao cupped his hands and said, if such a powerhouse becomes a member of the sect of all times, it will be like adding wings to a tiger. Ryu Sinan looked up at the outline of the gate outside the city and said, the land of demonic affinity is about to open, and people of the demonic path will come in large numbers. For your own safety, you should leave quickly. Fuck. Does he think I'm weak? The system said, compared to them, the host is indeed very weak. Jun Changshao shook his head and said with a serious expression, from the day I joined the Realm Hall, I made a vow that I will use my life to defend justice. Even if there is a mountain of swords and a sea of fire in front of me, I will go forward without hesitation. Every word and every action was a perfect display of his acting skills. Su Xiaomao, who was standing behind him, exclaimed in admiration, compared to the sect master, I'm so weak. Brother, you're not really from the Realm Hall, are you? Gu Zhaoxi muttered in his heart. Young man. Ryu Sinan nodded and praised, I admire you. Brother Lu. Jun Changshao said, to tell you the truth, I've always hoped to become a man like you, who can slay demons. What kind of man am I if I can't even protect my own woman? Ryu Sinan placed his hand on the sarcophagus, dispirited and haggard once again covering his entire face. Jun Changshao thought, this is a man with a story. Who? Ryu Sinan put the sarcophagus back on his back and pointed at the branch master bound by Gu Zhaoxi, saying, I want to take this person with me. This, Jun Changshao was at a loss. They had finally managed to capture a leader of the Buried Moon Pavilion with great difficulty. If he was taken away before they could even interrogate him, wouldn't all their efforts have been in vain? Brother Lu. Jun Changshao's brain spun as he said, I serve the Jade Chestnut Maiden. At this point, he stopped abruptly, because the seemingly real yet illusory gate in the sky had completely materialized. Strange lines gradually appeared on the rusty gate, outlining a huge, ferocious head that resembled a demon beast. Ryu Sinan turned around and frowned, saying, it's about to open the gate. Whoosh! Suddenly, a black ripple visible to the naked eye spread out from the huge iron gate. Not only did it sweep across the entire city, it even extended for thousands of miles. Upon contact with the energy, Jun Changshao immediately felt his mind being disturbed, but it quickly disappeared. Thus, he asked in astonishment, what happened just now? This is a demonic wave. Gu Zhaoxi said solemnly, I heard that the scholar said that it can interfere with demonic cultivators. Patriarch. At this moment, Li Qingyang pointed to the sky and exclaimed, "Junior sister is flying up." Jun Changshao hurriedly looked up and saw Yao Menjing's eyes flickering with red light. A crescent moon pattern appeared between her brows as she approached the iron gate as if she had lost her mind. "Let's go. What do we do with this guy? Bring him along." Whoosh! Whoosh! Jun Changshao was the first to fly up. When he got close to Yao Menjing, he shouted, "Girl, what's wrong?" Yao Menjing didn't say anything. She stopped when she was about 10 feet away from the iron gate and made a gesture that resembled a prayer. At this moment, the demonic cultivators that flew up also stopped. They surrounded the iron gate that was flickering with flowing light and turned into devout believers. "Brother, what's going on?" "I don't know. Didn't the scholar tell you? He's not omnipotent. He's not omniscient." Jun Changshao tried to call out to Yao Menjing, but the latter didn't listen at all. Instead, the flickering red light in her eyes became even more intense. Ryu Sinan said, "These demonic cultivators are delivering the power of faith. When a certain condition is met, the iron gate will open." "I see." Jun Changshao came to a realization, but he was stunned and thought to himself, "Why is this guy here? Where are the members of the buried moon pavilion that we just captured?" After the iron gate materialized, all the demonic cultivators within a radius of thousands of miles flew over. They gathered around and devoutly contributed the power of faith, causing the strange pattern on the door to become even more intense. When the demon ancestor was alive, he opened up an independent space and threw all the treasures in, thus starting the era of the Great Search. However, if the later generations wanted to obtain them, they had to gather faith to open the door. Jun Changshao said, "This design is a bit flashy." Ryu Sinan stood at the side with his arms crossed in front of his chest. The cloak with the word "chivalry" engraved on it rustled behind him. Where was the stone coffin? It was placed on the streets of the city and pressed against the space wrap that bound the members of the buried moon pavilion. In the extreme cavern. Zhenren Tonggu looked at the materialized demonic gate and said, "The gate is about to open. Let's hope it'll be the same as before and pass by peacefully," Masato Kitano said. The land of demonic affinity appeared once every 100 years. Although it appeared many times and caused a huge commotion, no one had inherited the opportunities inside, so the entire upper realm was still relatively peaceful. All the major sects were also watching the demonic gate. After all, with such a huge commotion, it would be rude if they did not show some interest. "Master." On a cloud-shrouded mountain peak, a stooped old man said, "Jun Changshao is there too." Empress Lingyao said, "With him around, I'm afraid something will happen when the land of demonic affinity opens." The camera returned to the sky outside the city of demonic affinity half an hour later. The number of demonic cultivators from all over the world had reached hundreds of thousands, densely surrounding the Iron Gate. Perhaps because Ryu Sinan was beside them, no demonic cultivators dared to get close. Hence, the area where Jun Changshao and the others were at was particularly eye-catching. Crack, just then, a crisp sound was heard. The tightly shut iron gate shook slightly, and then a crack appeared at the bottom. "It's open," Ryu Sinan said solemnly. He released his spiritual senses to capture all the demonic cultivators around, afraid that they would lose their minds and cause a serious stampede. Boom boom. Boom boom boom. The iron gate shook frequently, and then slowly opened from the bottom to the top. As the gap widened, a chilling wind blew from inside. Boom. After a while, the iron gate opened completely. Because of the vortex, they could not see what was inside. "Patriarch," Yao Menjing said, "we can go in now." "Huh?" Jun Changshao was a little dumbfounded. This girl's eyes were still red, as if she was controlled by some power. How could she still be conscious and speak? Huff huff. Just then, Yao Menjing opened her arms, and demonic qi emerged from her body, quickly enveloping the patriarch, Li Qingyang, and the others. Let's go. Whoosh! Everyone was dragged by her, and then quickly merged into the vortex of the gate. Ryu Sinan did not follow because he was not a demonic cultivator and had no interest in finding opportunities. Instead, he raised his chin and said, "That girl just now felt a little different from other demonic cultivators." Chapter 1461. The huge iron gate that was flashing with flowing light was like a ball of fire, attracting thousands of demonic cultivators to enter. To them, this was a once-in-a-century opportunity. They were not afraid even if they had to sacrifice their lives for it. Ryu Sinan stood in mid-air, watching the demonic cultivators enter like moths to a flame. He could not help but sigh in his heart. The hardest thing to control in the world is desire. Yes. The land of demonic affinity had opened countless times, but no one had obtained the opportunity. Some had even died. However, it could still attract a large number of martial artists. This was the terrifying part of desire. Swish! Swish! At this moment, dozens of flowing lights flew over from afar and entered the vortex of the iron gate at the fastest speed. Ryu Sinan thought, did the Zhongyue Pavilion send their higher-ups in again? Whoosh! Whoosh! After another 10 minutes, the hundreds of thousands of demonic cultivators gathered around all flew in. The iron gate first surged with a majestic demonic aura, then slowly closed from top to bottom. A heavy voice sounded, "My treasure will be obtained by the fated. Cold and ruthless." Although these words would be said every time the door closed, Ryu Sinan still felt fear. He thought, how strong was the demon lord back then? The heavy voice spread throughout the entire upper realm. Jinren Tongu and Masato Kitano, who were not present, also heard it. Both of them had a special feeling. Although they had heard it countless times, they could hear a different meaning each time. Even a sentence sealed for 100,000 years contains some kind of profound meaning. Perhaps this is the strength of the third step. The desire for a higher realm rose in their eyes, but there was also some helplessness. Since ancient times, there were very few powerhouses who could reach that level. Some realms could not be achieved with talent and time. Therefore, the two brothers had been stuck at the peak for a long time. They had long calmed down. When they had nothing to do, they played chess and regretted it. Their days were very comfortable. Swish! Swish! Jun Changshao and the others, who were shrouded in demonic aura, appeared out of thin air. Then, they found themselves in a dark and desolate environment. Patriarch Yao Menjing said, "We're in." Jun Changshao steadied himself and found that he and his disciple were in the middle of a dry, barren land. There was a crescent moon floating in the sky, which was exactly the same as the pattern on the girl's forehead. "It's a little cold." Su Xiaomao crossed his arms. This kind of coldness wasn't like the coldness of Lu Qianqian's ice attribute. Instead, it was a coldness that came from the depths of one's soul. Perhaps it was because the surroundings were filled with boundless devil qi. Fortunately, although the barren land was full of strong devil qi, it was not the kind that affected the soul of the devil fog forest. Although everyone felt uncomfortable, they could still bear it. Swish! Swish! Not long after Jun Changshao and the others entered, demonic cultivators appeared one after another in the void. Clearly, they were the ones who entered later. "Brother." Gu Zhaoxi asked, "Where do we go from here?" Jun Changshao was speechless. "I was the one who wanted to ask you that." Gu Zhaoxi scratched his head and said, "It's my first time here." The land of demonic affinity was an opportunity prepared by the demon ancestor for demonic cultivators. Orthodox martial artists usually wouldn't join in the fun because they might lose their lives. It could be said that the demonic cultivators who entered later had done their homework before coming and could be considered prepared. On the other hand, Jun Changshao and the others were complete newbies. Their current state was, "Who am I? Where am I?" What am I doing? Hey! Gu Zhaoxi lifted the black-robed elder and asked, do you know? The Buried Moon Pavilion branch leader didn't speak. He, who had been punched, was currently in a severely injured state. Even if he knew, he wouldn't be able to speak. Brother. Seeing that the other party didn't speak, Gu Zhaoxi said, this guy is a burden. Why don't we just kill him? Jun Changshao said, he's still useful. Yes. Gu Zhaoxi slapped his forehead and said, we can use him to blackmail the Buried Moon Pavilion. Jun Changshao was speechless. Could it be that in the eyes of my brother, I only want to blackmail? The system said, what else? Carrying an injured person was indeed a bit of a burden, so Jun Changshao threw him into the Tianyuan prison pagoda with a wave of his hand and handed him over to the prison trio. Daodu, little Louis. Area shouted, guests are here. It was difficult to measure the size of the land of demonic affinity. However, with hundreds of thousands of demonic cultivators gathered here, it didn't seem crowded. This was enough to show that this independent space was quite large. After entering, everyone didn't move around casually. They continued to pray like devout believers. Patriarch, what should we do? Follow them. Okay. Jun Changshao and the disciples followed suit and stood in the barren land, fully demonstrating what it meant to make up the numbers. Buzz. Buzz. About an hour later, the dark space suddenly trembled. Then, 10 stone doors appeared out of thin air in a higher area in the distance. From the order they were arranged, it seemed to contain some kind of profound meaning. It's here, it's here. Someone said excitedly, the door of opportunity left by the demonic ancestor. The hundreds of thousands of demonic cultivators gathered around all had a greedy luster in their eyes. Some even began to walk towards the stone doors. There were many people. There were only 10 doors. In order to get in faster, everyone went at full speed. There were bound to be collisions during this period, so it directly evolved into a chaotic battle. If I can't get in, you can't get in either. Whoever dares to stop us will die. Brothers, let's get in. Boom. 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 In an instant, in front of the 10 seemingly indestructible stone doors, all kinds of brilliant martial arts flashed. Jun Changshao was speechless. They're fighting just like that? Patriarch. Yao Menjing said, there must be some kind of opportunity behind the stone doors. Should we go in? We have to go in, but... Jun Changshao stroked his chin and said, there might not be opportunities in all 10 stone doors. There might be traps in 9 of them. Gu Zhaoxi pointed at a few demonic cultivator groups gathered together in the distance and said, they haven't moved yet. They should be considering that door. Get lost. At this moment, a deafening roar came from the stone door. The demonic cultivators who were fighting stopped one after another. When they saw that the person who spoke was the fierce-looking Scarface, they all made way for him. This was a powerhouse that no one could afford to offend. Scarface led his subordinates to the second door and said coldly, the door won't disappear. What are you guys so anxious for? Everyone muttered in their hearts, the door won't disappear. We can enter at any time, but the opportunity is different. It'll be gone once it's taken away. Swoosh! Scarface led his subordinates in first. At the same time, powerful demonic cultivator groups also chose the stone doors one after another. In a short while, all 10 stone doors had people entering. There might be traps waiting for them inside, but under the great temptation of the opportunity, even if it was a mountain of blades or a sea of flames, they still had to try. Because the various demonic cultivators had moved first, the other demonic cultivators calmed down and began to line up to enter. Patriarch. Yao Menjing said, which door do you choose? Seeing the others enter one after another, she started to get a little anxious. Jun Changshao wasn't in a hurry. Instead, he slowly took out a compass from his space ring and thought to himself, can a treasure detector be used here? The system said, you're taking the sword of the previous dynasty to kill the officials of this dynasty. Buzz. At this moment, the compass suddenly flashed with light after he injected his thoughts into it. Then, it started to spin rapidly and finally stopped at a certain direction. As expected. Jun Changshao said happily, it's useful. The system explained forcefully, regardless of the previous dynasty or the current one, as long as the sword is sharp, it can be cut down. Jun Changshao realized that the directions given by the compass were not the 10 stone doors, so he said in surprise, could they all be traps? Chapter 1462. Jun Changshao was very surprised that the treasure finder, which was purchased in the lower realm and used in the planar battlefield, could be used in the land of demonic fate. What was even more surprising was that the position shown did not point to the 10 stone doors, which meant that there was nothing inside. Since that was the case, why did he put it out? Wasn't the demon ancestor, who created the treasure finder, deliberately tricking people? As expected. Jun Changshao thought, the world of the top powerhouses is really hard to understand. It's very normal. The system said, if it's so easily found, then it's not called a treasure finder, it's called a cabbage on the street. So if the later generations want to obtain the inheritance, how can they not pay a huge price? For example, if the host knows that he's about to die and needs someone else to inherit his martial arts, he will definitely set up a complicated treasure finder to make things difficult for them. Are you cursing me to die? Analogy. Jun Changshao said, if it were me, I would definitely set up this treasure finder to be more interesting, and not be old-fashioned and let the later generations choose. Although he was talking with the system, he was not idle in reality. After carefully observing the position of the treasure finder, he led the disciples in the opposite direction of the stone door. Patriarch. Yao Mengyao was puzzled, where are we going? Don't talk. Jun Changshao said, just follow. Yao Menjing hurriedly shut her mouth, even though she had 100 question marks in her heart, she did not say it out loud. Li Qingyang and the others were not demonic cultivators, so their mentality was very normal. They did not care about where the patriarch took them. Brother. Gu Zhaoxi looked at the treasure finder and said, what is this thing? Treasure finder. Jun Changshao said, Master gave it to me. Gu Zhaoxi looked at him with envy. After wandering in the upper realm for so long, he had always been working hard by himself, without any master to help him. Brother. I'm jealous. The treasure finder's position on the compass was in the northwest direction, so Jun Changshao led them all the way. After walking for about an hour, the frequency of the light flashing increased, which meant that they were very close to the treasure finder. Strange. It's clearly very close, but why is there nothing? Jun Changshao was still in the barren land, surrounded by nothing but moonlight and devil qi. Buzz. However, after taking a few more steps, he seemed to have touched an invisible barrier, and the space suddenly rippled. Swish. Swish. Suddenly, an even bigger stone door appeared before them. Thick demonic energy blew out from within, causing Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji and the others to shudder involuntarily. Jun Changshao lowered his head and looked at the compass. He found that the frequency of the light was increasing, so he said happily, it should be inside. Go. Everyone entered one after another. At this moment, the demonic cultivators who were queuing up in the distance also noticed that there was an even larger stone door behind them. After a short moment of consideration, they immediately rushed over. As expected. A black-robed old man said, there's a hidden door. In the previous opening of the land of demon affinity, many demonic cultivators entered and very few came out. However, after countless times, they would eventually sum up their experience. Therefore, whether the 10 stone doors had any opportunities or not had always been a matter of speculation. Now, Jun Changshao cheated by using the treasure detector and activated the invisible hidden door, which confirmed many people's speculations. Behind the stone door was a long tunnel. The walls were crimson red, as if they were painted with blood. Jun Changshao led the disciples in, but with every step they took, the depths of their souls seemed to be eroded by some kind of energy, and they began to feel lightheaded. "Brother," Gu Zhaoxi said in shock, "the demonic energy here will disturb the mind. Don't be careless." Swish. Before he finished speaking, he had already lost his mind. When he came back to his senses, he found himself in a forest with birds singing and flowers fragrant. "What's going on? I felt like I was in a dream just now." Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others were also nearby. They looked at each other, puzzled. "Wait. Where are the patriarch and junior sister?" Everyone was in the forest, but Jun Changshao and Yao Menjing were nowhere to be seen. "Don't worry." Gu Zhaoxi closed his eyes, and after sensing for a while, he said, "This isn't reality. This is a dream." "A dream?" Everyone was stunned. Gu Zhaoxi said, "The demonic energy just disturbed our minds and brought us to an illusory scene. The patriarch and that girl didn't come in, so they must have resolved it beforehand." Boom! Suddenly, Yi Xingchen punched Su Xiaomao in the stomach and said, "Does it hurt?" "It doesn't hurt. It really is a dream." "No, can't you just hit yourself? Why do you have to hit me?" Just as Gu Zhaoxi guessed, they had already fallen into some kind of dream. In reality, they were standing in the tunnel like wooden chickens. Phew! Standing to the side, Jun Changshao exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He wasn't disturbed by the demonic energy because Xiao Hua and Little Xie had worked together to suppress the demonic energy in his mind. It's over. They've been tricked. Seeing Gu Zhaoxi, Li Qingyang, and the others' lifeless eyes, Jun Changshao was about to step forward and take their pulse so that Little Xie and Xiao Hua could resolve it, but he suddenly discovered that Yao Menjing, who was standing in the middle, was crying. "Damn it! You actually made my cute disciple cry. Unforgivable." Jun Changshao walked over and put one hand on Yao Menjing's pulse. He was about to use his two spiritual bodies to help her break free from the demonic energy when a buzzing sound came from his head, and he was instantly dumbfounded. A moment later, he seemed to have awoken from a dream and suddenly found himself standing under the setting sun. He slowly raised his head and saw a dilapidated building in front of him, and the words "Iron Bone" could be vaguely seen on the broken plaque. Boom! Jun Changshao felt as if he had been struck by lightning, and he was instantly dumbfounded. Because that dilapidated building was the sect hall that had been modified by Li Qingyang many times. He turned his head stiffly and realized that he was standing on a drill ground. The surrounding buildings had been destroyed, and the corpses of his disciples were strewn all over the place. Their blood had converged into a river. Jun Changshao felt as if his heart had been viciously stabbed by a sharp blade, and his entire face gradually twisted. Who was it? Who destroyed my sect? Jun Changshao's blood seemed to have been set ablaze, and endless flames of fury erupted from his body as he brought out all of his trump cards, such as the unstoppable saber and the stone statue. At that moment, standing in the dilapidated sect under the setting sun, he was like an enraged demon that could plunge the entire world into eternal darkness at any moment. "Host, calm down." Right at this moment, the system's voice sounded in his ears, "This is a dream." "Dream? I'm having a nightmare." The system said, "To be precise, the host is in Yao Menjing's dream." Wah! Suddenly, the sound of crying came from beside his ears. Jun Changshao, who had calmed down, hurriedly turned around and saw Yao Menjing kneeling in a pool of blood, hugging Lu Wancher's corpse. Her tears fell like rain as she cried, "Senior sister, wake up." Although the system had reminded him that it was only a dream, seeing this scene, his heart still felt an intense pain. Ta! Right at this moment, a person in a black robe walked over and stopped in front of Yao Mengyao. His voice was cold as he said, "Crying is a coward's behavior. Stand up and follow me." "Who are you, someone who can change your fate?" "I'm not leaving. I want to wait for the patriarch to return. That guy is already dead. You are the only survivor of the sect of all times." The black-robed old man was a little impatient. He used energy to envelop Yao Menjing, and whether she agreed or not, he wanted to forcefully take her away. However, just as he was about to fly away, a hand suddenly pressed down on his shoulder. "Old man." Jun Changshao stood behind and said with a cold face, "Let go of my disciple." The black-robed old man turned around in shock and said, How can you enter other people's dreams?" "I'm very curious." Jun Changshao said, "How can you enter?" "Shua." Suddenly, he threw the black-robed old man over his shoulder and pressed him to the ground. Then, he channeled energy into his fist and shouted angrily, "Whether it's reality or a dream, whoever dares to bully my disciple, I will definitely kill him." Boom boom boom. Boom boom boom. Although it was a dream, the fight was very real. Every punch hit the flesh. There was only one word to describe it: awesome. After a series of explosions, the mysterious black-robed old man was instantly beaten into a wisp of demonic energy. The surrounding space immediately collapsed, and the two of them instantly left the dream and returned to reality. What happened?" Yao Menjing said with tears in her eyes. "Ah! Patriarch, why are you riding on martial uncle?" In the dream, Jun Changshao was beating up the black-robed old man. In reality, he was grabbing Gu Zhaoxi and beating him up. The latter's mind was currently in the dream, but his body was beaten black and blue. No wonder it was real. No wonder every punch hit the flesh. Chapter 1463. The black-robed old man appeared and gathered his energy to envelop Yao Menjing and take her away. Jun Changshao couldn't help but walk over. He didn't care if it was a dream or reality, he would never allow anyone to take his disciple away. What surprised him was that although he appeared in the dream as a bystander, he could actually touch the other party. What did this mean? Both he and the old man were real. How can you enter someone else's dream?" The black-robed man's words immediately made Jun Changshao certain that the former also broke into Yao Menjing's dream, so he beat him up without saying anything. "Ah!" Looking at Gu Zhaoxi, whose face was swollen and whose eyes were still dazed, a trace of shame appeared on Go Leftover's face. Then, he hurriedly helped him up and placed him beside the disciple again, pretending that nothing had happened. "Patriarch, I just had a nightmare." Yao Menjing wiped her tears and said. She seemed to have not recovered yet, and her words had a sobbing tone. "It's just a dream." Jun Changshao said, "Don't think too much." The system said, "The black-robed man that the host beat up just now is probably the culprit that made disciple fall into the dream." What a pity. Jun Changshao muttered to himself, "It got away." Leading his disciple into the dream, then putting on a show of the sect being destroyed, and finally taking her away, there must be a plan. Shua! Shua! At this moment, demonic cultivators caught up from behind. Without exception, they were all disturbed by the demonic aura and then lost consciousness. They stood in place, and their eyes gradually became dull. Jun Changshao ignored them and went to Gu Zhaoxi and his disciple. He released the fire spirit and evil spirit power to dispel the demonic aura that controlled their mind. Huff huff. Huff huff huff. A moment later, everyone broke free from the dream and gasped for breath. They entered the same dream. At first, it was a forest full of birds and flowers, but then a large number of powerful beasts appeared and they were forced to fight. Especially Gu Zhaoxi. He fought hundreds of beasts alone. In the end, he was beaten up and felt pain all over his body. Ouch! After freeing himself from the dream, he covered his face and said, "It hurts." "Martial uncle, why is your face swollen? Su Xiaoma asked. Li Qingyang and Xiao Ziji looked over at the same time, a trace of confusion in their eyes. In the dream, they had also been attacked by demonic beasts, but when they returned to reality, there were no changes to their bodies. Why was martial uncle so severely injured? And it seemed like they were all greeting his face. That's not right. Gu Zhaoxi wondered, why am I the only one injured? Jun Changshao pretended not to hear, then turned to look at the group of demonic cultivator who had just entered, and said, these people have also fallen into a dream. Plop. Suddenly, a demonic cultivator fell to the ground, his eyes gradually losing their luster. Gu Zhaoxi said, dead. Swish. At this moment, a black stream of light emerged from Yuan's corpse, and then instantly merged into the stone wall and disappeared. Jun Changshao immediately frowned. This attribute had also appeared after he had beaten up the black-robed old man. Plop. Plop. More and more demonic cultivators fell to the ground and lost their vitality. Black streams of light flew out from their bodies and merged into the wall like ghosts. Understood. Gu Zhaoxi observed for a while and said, this is a method of the demonic Tao, called dream soul reaping. The black streams of light that flew out are their souls. That's right. Hearing this, Jun Changxiao's face suddenly became extremely cold. Just now in Yao Menjing's dream, the black-robed old man took her away. Could it be that he took away her soul? Fortunately, he had gone in and stopped it in time. If the girl had followed him, she would have become a corpse. What a vicious method. Almost causing his disciple to lose her life, completely infuriating Jun Changshao. However, Gu Zhaoxi said, dream soul reaping only works on demonic cultivators. Even if orthodox martial artists fall into a dream, their souls will not be taken away. Plop. Plop. One by one, the demonic cultivators fell to the ground and their souls flew out of their bodies. Jun Changshao wanted to stop it, but he couldn't touch the black attribute at all. He could only watch as they lost their vitality. Let's go. Let's continue forward. Since they had come to the land of demon fate to seek opportunities, they had to be prepared to die. Go Sheng would not be merciful and use two types of spirit bodies to resolve their crisis. Firstly, it would consume too much energy, and secondly, there were too many people. Brother. Gu Zhaoxi said as he walked, placing the dream soul reaping here is not as simple as setting up a trap to increase the difficulty. It is obviously to take people's souls. Could it be that there is an ulterior motive? I heard from the scholar that the other reason why the demonic ancestor created the land of demon fate was to pave the way for his own resurrection. With the dream soul reaping here, perhaps, gathering a large number of demonic cultivator souls to revive himself? That's right. Jun Changshao fell into a short silence and said, if that's the case, then demonic cultivators who come to seek opportunities are actually entering a tomb prepared for themselves in advance. As they talked, they walked to the end of the tunnel and entered a relatively spacious space. Then, they were stunned by the scene in front of them. This place was a bit like a palace. The ground was paved with high-quality stone slabs. There were stone statues of some kind of demonic beast heads on the four walls. They all opened their mouths and spat out red water. It was very fishy and pungent. Blood. Gu Zhaoxi said, it's all the blood of demonic cultivators. Why was he so sure? Because martial artists who cultivated the demonic path had demonic chi energy in their blood. It could be detected with just a little bit of consciousness. There were a total of 10 demonic beast heads in the palace, so there were 10 spots where blood was spurting out. The scene presented was really creepy. The blood is warm. Jun Changshao said, just died not long ago. He Wudi looked carefully at the 10 demonic beast heads and said, the 10 stone doors we saw earlier all had similar patterns. Could it be, he didn't continue, but everyone understood where the blood came from. Splash. Splash. Splash! Splash! The blood of demonic cultivators fell into the water trough and then surged along a fixed route, finally being transported to a huge blood pool in the central area. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others were experienced, but when they saw the large pool of blood, they suddenly had the urge to vomit. Jun Changshao walked over and found that there was a luxurious throne made of special materials at the north of the blood pool. There were complicated patterns on it and an exquisite box was placed on it. "Brother," Gu Zhaoxi said, "this throne is probably worth a lot. We can take it with us before we leave." "That's what I was thinking." The two of them looked at each other and smiled brightly. Patriarch. At this moment, Li Qingyang shouted, "Junior sister is going up." Jun Changshao and Gu Zhaoxi hurriedly turned around and saw that Yao Menjing had stopped in front of the throne. Then, she picked up the box and sat down. Her face seemed to be in a daze, and her eyes were flashing red. Hum. Hum. In the outside world, the tightly shut iron door suddenly shook. Junren Tonggu hurriedly looked up. While Masato Kitano was also looking, he waved his hand and messed up the chessboard, saying, "What's going on?" "Kikik. Kik-kik." Suddenly, strange laughter came from the iron door, followed by a voice that shook the sky, "10 immortal sects, all the major clans, your nightmare has come again." "Not good." Junren Tonggu and Masato Kitano exclaimed at the same time, "The demonic ancestor has been resurrected." Puchi. Puchi. At this moment, a red-crowned crane flew over from afar and delivered some information. Masato Kitano's mouth twitched. "I just received news that your disciple Jun Changshao has brought a few disciples into the land of demonic affinity." "What?" Junren Tonggu's eyes widened. Then, he angrily flipped the chessboard and roared, "He's not a demonic cultivator, what's he doing there?" Chapter 1464. Sinister laughter and voices suddenly rang out from within the demon gate, causing the entire upper world to boil. The nightmare of the 10 major immortal sects and the various races. All the martial artists subconsciously thought of the demonic tribe that they had joined forces to destroy. Could the land of demonic affinity really be used to revive the demonic ancestor? Jia Hall. Several higher-ups stood outside the main hall, frowning. "It's still here. The upper world will never have peace again. Should we inform the immortal sects? Let them send someone to stop it. The land of demonic affinity is connected to the origin of heaven and earth. If it could be stopped so easily, it would not have existed for so long." The revival of the demonic ancestor was a serious problem. But the Jia Hall could not make the necessary arrangements, because all of this was planned by the other party. If there was a possibility of revival, no one could stop it. "Master." In the majestic palace, the hunchbacked old man said solemnly, "The demonic ancestor is about to be revived." Empress Lingyao said, "As expected, as long as that guy goes in, there will definitely be changes." The land of demonic affinity had existed for 100,000 years. During this period, it had opened and closed many times without any major changes. Now that Jun Changshao had gone in, the demonic ancestor was revived. This was too much of a coincidence. Chaos. Empress Lingyao said, "The upper world is going to be in chaos. The Jia Hall is going to have a headache." The hunchbacked old man said. "Not only that," Empress Lingyao said, "the 10 major immortal sects will probably not sit still. After all, a top powerhouse like the demonic ancestor can bring absolute disaster to the entire world by himself." Demonic Affinity City. Lu Sinan hung in the air, his brows tightly knitted together. Not only did he hear the voice, but he also heard it more carefully than others. Especially when he felt the power contained within, his state of mind was immediately affected. He exclaimed, just how strong was the demonic ancestor when he was alive? Whoosh! 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 The huge iron gate hanging in the sky shone brightly, and a majestic demonic aura was released, as if it was going to engulf the entire world. Whoosh! Ryu Sinan spread out his arms, and the space spirit erupted. Layers upon layers of materialized barriers enveloped the huge iron gate, preventing the demonic chi from spreading irregularly. He came to Demonic Affinity City because he was worried that the demonic cultivators would riot. Now that the demonic lord was about to be resurrected, as a demonic exterminator, he had to do his best to stop the demonic cultivators. As for whether he could succeed or not, it was no longer within his consideration. Swish! Swish! Just as the space enchantment was formed, streams of light suddenly flew over from all directions. Judging from the aura they emitted, their strength was not below Ryu Sinan's. A moment later, 10 dignified old men in different outfits appeared outside the huge iron gate. Their turbid eyes gradually sharpened. So strong. Ryu Sinan was shocked. He couldn't figure out the strength of these people. They had probably reached the peak of the truth-seeking realm. Swish! Swish! At this moment, 2 more streaks of light flew over at high speed. Jinren Tongu, Masato Kitano, a white-haired old man said lightly. Why are you here too? Ryu Sinan was shocked. What? Jinren Tongu said unhappily, this is the territory of the 10 major celestial sects. You don't allow us itinerant cultivators to come in at will? 10 major celestial sects. Ryu Sinan's eyes widened. No wonder these 10 people were so powerful. It turned out that they were the powerhouses of the 10 major celestial sects. Top itinerant cultivators and powerhouses of the celestial sects. Outside the small demonic affinity city, it could be said that the big shots had gathered. However, this was just the beginning. In the next hour, powerhouses from all over the world arrived one after another. They were all from Dao sects, and their strength was all in the truth-seeking realm. The Realm Hall contacted them. No, the 10 major celestial sects contacted them. Since the land of demonic affinity was an opportunity to resurrect the demonic lord, and because it was related to the origin of heaven and earth, they couldn't enter to kill the danger in the cradle. However, they could wait outside for him to come out. The expression on Ryu Sinan's face became interesting. In terms of seniority, he belonged to the 2nd generation in the upper realm. Jinren Tongu and the powerhouses of the celestial sects were the 1st generation. Now, those outside the demonic gate were all 1st generation powerhouses, which made him feel that he had no status. In that case, as a disciple of Jinren Tongu, Jun Changshao could also be classified as a 2nd generation powerhouse. He could be brothers with Ryu Sinan. There was nothing wrong with calling him Brother Lu. Although this is not the territory of the celestial sects, the demonic lord is about to be resurrected. Outsiders should leave as soon as possible, a powerhouse of the 10 major celestial sects said lightly. Heh. Masato Kitano sneered and said, are you worried that we will cause trouble? Although he and Jinren Tongu were quite afraid of the 10 major celestial sects, it was impossible for them to be terrified when they met. At least in terms of cultivation, they were not weak. The weakness was that they were alone. To put it bluntly, the strength of the 2 brothers was not inferior to any of the powerhouses of the 10 major celestial sects, but if they were to fight in a group, it would definitely be difficult for them to fight against so many. Swish! Swish! After a while, the powerhouses of the various races also flew over, including the Thunder Rhombus race, the Ice Phoenix race, and so on. Back then, the 10 major celestial sects were not the only ones who destroyed the demonic clan, but also the various races. Therefore, the demonic lord was about to be resurrected, and they definitely could not sit back and do nothing. Because of the beast egg, the various races had once gathered at the Aeon Immortal Mountain, but the scene was not too spectacular. Because other than the large number of people, most of them were only at the core transformation realm. Now, in front of the huge demonic gate, the top powerhouses of the various sects and races were gathered together. The scene was shocking because they were all at the truth-seeking realm. Any one of them could easily defeat Jun Gosheng. Ryu Sinan became a little brother. He even took back the spatial barrier and thought to himself, I feel a little redundant. Forget it, forget it. He landed in Demon Affinity City, carried the stone coffin on his back, and dragged the group of bound members of the Buried Moon Pavilion away. His level was too high to participate. Inside the land of Demon Affinity, in a magnificent palace, when Yao Menjing picked up the box and sat on the throne, dense lines appeared on the surrounding walls and floor, and then quickly spread out. Jun Changshao wanted to stop it, but it was too late. Gulp. Gulp. The demonic blood in the blood pool boiled violently, and the spreading lines surrounded the throne and gradually extended to Yao Menjing's body. The crescent moon pattern between her eyebrows became even brighter. Whoosh! Whoosh! At the same time, black streams of light drilled out of the wall like ghosts and merged into the blood pool, turning into red light that hung above the throne. Blood is my body, soul is my will. A deep voice suddenly sounded in the palace, and Li Qingyang and the others' blood boiled. Brother! Gu Zhaoxi exclaimed, the demon ancestor wants to use this girl's body and soul to revive. Fuck! Jun Changshao cursed in his heart, and then rushed toward Yao Menjing. He didn't care whether the demon ancestor revived or not, but if he wanted to use his disciple's body to do so, he definitely had to stop it, because this was definitely not a good thing. Swish! Little Xia and Little Hua worked frantically to dissolve the demonic aura for their father. Jun Changshao was able to get close to the throne, and he grabbed Yao Menjing and pulled her down. But just as he was about to leave, a huge suction force suddenly erupted, and directly, Pa! Gosheng couldn't break free, and he sat down on the throne. Swish! 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 Right at this moment, the demonic blood in the blood pool gushed out. The crimson souls that had gathered in the sky also pressed down, instantly enveloping Jun Changshao and Yao Menjing, forming a huge crimson ball of water. Aw! Dog barks could be heard from within. Oh no! Gu Zhaoxi's expression changed drastically. Brother is implicated. Patriarch. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others all exclaimed. However, there was also a roar in the palace that was on the verge of collapse. Why is there an orthodox cultivator sitting on my throne? Chapter 1465. Yao Menjing sat on the throne, and the demonic aura in the palace instantly reached its peak. Gu Zhaoxi, who was at the 8 Revolutions core realm, could only resist and not move at all. Jun Changshao was also disturbed by the demonic aura. However, he could move normally because Little Xia and Little Hua could refine and purify the demonic aura in his body. From the looks of it, Yao Menjing was sitting on the throne and had activated the resurrection procedure of the demon ancestor. Therefore, Gosheng's first thought after rushing over was to pull her down. Success! She was pulled out of the throne and held in her arms. However, just as Jun Changshao turned around and was about to retreat, a powerful suction force erupted and made him sit directly on the throne. Dog Emperor ascends to the throne, all living beings worship. Whoosh! Whoosh! In a flash, demonic blood and soul demons rushed over and surrounded Jun Changshao and Yao Menjing, forming a blood-colored water ball that no one could approach or touch. It's over, it's over. Gu Zhaoxi and the disciples were shocked. Although they didn't understand what was going on, the demonic aura in the water ball must be very powerful. The patriarch was not a demonic cultivator, and he might die because of it. Ah! 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 Dog barks sounded in the palace, making people shudder. Patriarch. Li Qingyang and the others were suppressed by the demonic aura and could only watch helplessly as they roared in their hearts. Brother! Gu Zhaoxi clenched his fists and shouted, I will take good care of the sect of all times and inherit your will." The disciples almost vomited blood. The patriarch was not dead yet, and Uncle Master was already making arrangements for his funeral. It was strange. Jun Changshao, who was sitting on the throne and surrounded by the red water ball, screamed. Yao Menjing, who was sitting on him, did not move at all. She even faintly showed a comfortable expression on her face. The situation was like this. The throne was the opportunity for the demon ancestors' resurrection. As long as a demonic cultivator sat on it, their body would be used as a guide to receive the demonic blood and soul. Yao Menjing sitting on it was definitely the catalyst. However, Jun Changshao pulled her down at the critical moment, and he was pulled over and replaced. In other words, Go Sheng was now the catalyst for the demon ancestors' resurrection. Demonic energy gathered around him, and Yao Menjing, who was sitting next to him, not only did she not suffer any substantial damage, but she also benefited from the overflowing demonic aura. The patriarchs. Benefit, disciple. Such a selfless action was Hui Yao. Ah. Ha. The patriarch's soul's soul was soul, and the patriarch's blood's soul's soul. Xia was a little, and little was little, and little's little of little. Little Xia and little Hua didn't just stand by idly. They both took on the role of guards and stood in various passageways in an attempt to stop them. However, due to the sheer number of guards, there was simply no way to stop them. If it had been Yao Menjing who had suddenly absorbed so much demonic qi, she would have long lost herself. Although there was a small accident. However, as long as this orthodox martial artist dies, that girl can still be affected, and my resurrection plan can continue. The heavy voice sounded, and there was relief in its tone. The so-called resurrection was to gather the blood and soul of the demonic cultivator and find a suitable body to be the carrier. Jun Changshao suddenly sat on it. Although it disrupted the original plan, it was only delaying the plan for now. It would not affect the follow-up plan. Patriarch Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others were in pain. They could see Jun Changshao's SSS through the red water ball. It must be a kind of indescribable pain. It's been 100,000 years. When I'm reborn, I'll make the whole world tremble. The demon ancestor's voice sounded in the palace. It seemed to be a chatterbox, as if it did not know the law of villains die from talking too much. Actually, as a villain, if they did not talk more and died, they would not have any sense of existence. Therefore, everyone should not resist this setting. After all, it was not easy for anyone. Buzz. Buzz. In the outside world, when Jun Changshao was suffering from the strong demonic aura, the patterns on the huge iron gate became brighter and brighter. This also made the powerhouses of the major sects look more and more serious. Disciple Jinren Tonggu said with a worried face, "You must come out alive, or else who will fulfill the promise of 10 years? Sigh. Masato Kitano shook his head and said, "When the demon ancestor is resurrected, I'm afraid that anyone who enters will be sacrificed. If you don't know how to speak, then don't speak." Jinren Tonggu roared. Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At this moment, an even stronger demonic aura appeared on the surface of the demon gate. This made the powerhouses unanimously believe that the demon ancestor's resurrection was imminent, and the entire upper realm would be facing a great disaster. Ah! Ah! In the palace, Jun Changshao was still screaming. His soul, meridians, and flesh were being disturbed and refined by the demonic aura. His mind was in a state of collapse. "Father! You must hold on." Little Xia and little Hua shouted in their hearts. The demonic aura was too strong. As long as Jun Changshao's mind was distracted, he would definitely die on the spot. This was because the intensity had long exceeded what he could endure. In a trance. Go Sheng seemed to be in an illusory environment. Various deities stood beside him and smiled. "Brother, we're here to pick you up. I can't die. I can't die. I still want to develop the sect. I still want to become the strongest." Ah! A new wave of demonic aura surged into his mind, causing Jun Changshao to scream in pain again. His eyes gradually turned red, as if he would fall into eternal damnation at any time. Whoosh! At this moment, the space trembled slightly. The stone statue in the ring appeared out of thin air and quickly turned into powder, sticking to his exposed skin and quickly assimilating into his body. Whoosh! In an instant, a gargoyle shape appeared behind Jun Changshao. It flapped its wings and enveloped him and Yao Menjing. Fuck! Seeing this, Gu Zhaoxi was shocked. Brother has the bloodline of the stone statue tribe. Ah! Jun Changshao was still screaming in pain. His eyes were as red as blood, and his teeth were gradually becoming sharper. Even his appearance was beginning to turn into that of a gargoyle. Especially under the cover of the demonic energy, he simply didn't look human anymore. Could it be that under the demonic aura, Brother's bloodline of the stone statue tribe is about to be activated? Gu Zhaoxi was shocked. As one of the three tribes with extremely high combat strength, the stone statue tribe was the most mysterious. Especially after the bloodline was awakened, they could transform into a violent warrior that could unleash explosive attacks at any time. So you're a descendant of the stone statue tribe. No wonder you can hold on for so long. But, since when can the demonic tribe activate the bloodline of this tribe? The fiend ancestor sounded puzzled. Sigh. At this moment, a very weak sigh that could penetrate one's soul came from the palace. Who? The fiend ancestor sounded surprised. Gu Zhaoxi, Li Qingyang, and the rest heard it too. However, they did not notice anyone else in the palace. Hence, they thought to themselves, could it be a ghost? Huff. 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 At this moment, a majestic aura filled the air and shrouded Jun Changshao in an instant. The current situation was that the first level had the red water blob, the second level had the form of a stone statue, and the third level was shrouded by a special energy. Go Sheng was completely sealed. However, under the multiple energy shrouds, the demonic aura and stone statue force in his body were effectively suppressed. A notification sounded in his ears. Do you wish to spend all your contribution points, achievement points, and reputation points to resolve the current crisis? Yes. The one who answered was not Jun Changshao but the system. Ding. Sect contribution points, 0, ding. Sect achievement points, 0, ding. Sect reputation points, 0, all the rewards he had received during this period of time were gone in an instant. Ding. Crisis resolution mode activated. Huff. Huff. In an instant, an unbelievable attribute appeared in Jun Changxiao's body. It crazily devoured and refined the demonic aura and stone statue force. Little Fire and Little Xia were so shocked that their eyes widened. What kind of power is this? The system proudly said to itself, the power of science. Chapter 1466. Just as Jun Changxiao was on the brink of death, the system took the initiative to activate the crisis resolution mode. This was a new function added in the previous version, and the condition to use it was to instantly reset contribution points, achievement points, and reputation points. To put it bluntly, it was basically using money to save his life. Here came the problem. How many points did Jun Changxiao accumulate during this time? Just the contribution points and achievement points alone added up to at least 5 to 6 million, while the achievement points were relatively low, only slightly more than 1,000. After working so hard for so long, he even wanted to get a VIP package and use it to upgrade the sect in the disciple shop, but in the end, it was all for naught. Fortunately, Jun Changshao was in a semi-conscious state and did not hear the notification that his points had reached 0. Otherwise, he would have resurrected on the spot, grabbed his neck, and roared, "Give me back my contribution points. Give me back my achievement points." With the crisis resolution mode activated and the consumption of points increased, Go Sheng's body was instantly filled with the power of science as he frantically refined the demonic aura and the stone statue's power. Little Fire and Little Xia were completely dumbfounded. They could feel the sudden emergence of a special energy in their father's body. Then, with an unstoppable force, it instantly destroyed all the negative attributes. The entire process could only be described as terrifying. The next second, the two spirits were instantly overjoyed. This was because when the demonic aura and the stone statue's power were devoured and purified, they actually benefited greatly, and their strength skyrocketed. In the outside world, Yao Menjing also benefited because the demonic aura discharged from Jun Changxiao's body was purer than before. Moreover, absorbing and refining it was completely effortless. Whoosh whoosh. A moment later, the little girl stepped into the core transformation stage. Due to the 3 layers of defense, the breakthrough momentum could not be released. However, Gu Zhaoxi could feel from her actions that she had advanced by a large realm, so he broke down and said, "To be able to break through under such circumstances, this completely refreshes my understanding of martial arts." Yao Menjing was only picking up scraps. The ones who benefited the most were Little Xia and Little Fire. Under the feedback of the power of science, the two spirits' strength increased crazily, and their physique and appearance gradually changed. The heaven and earth attributes that were born in the universe started as a fetus, then an infant, then a juvenile, and finally an adult. To put it bluntly, it was similar to the process of human growth. Every time he reached a new stage, his strength would increase tremendously. The fire spirit and the evil spirit, which were lodged in Jun Changxiao's dantian like 2 sons, were currently in the infant stage. With the nurturing of a large amount of devil qi, they were gradually entering the stage of adolescence. This was clearly a land of opportunity for demonic cultivators, but in the end, it had helped Jun Changxiao instead. This was too fucking scientific. Not good. A panicked voice sounded, "My power has been refined." Not only had it been refined, but it had also been used as nourishment for Jun Changxiao's 2 spiritual bodies, helping them to continuously improve their cultivation. This was simply a great kindness. Although the fiend ancestor realized that the situation was not good, he could not pull back the endless demonic qi because he had already gone from being active to being passive. Under the eruption of the powers of science, Jun Changxiao had not only turned the situation around, but he was also crazily absorbing the energy of a top-notch expert. He was also crazily trying to obtain absolute benefits. Using money to cheat was extremely terrifying. Strange. In the outside world, the originally dazzling huge iron gate gradually weakened from its peak strength, causing the powerhouses of various clans and sects to be at a loss. Masato Kitano guessed, could it be that the resurrection failed? Ha ha ha. Junrin Tonggu suddenly laughed out loud. If the fiend ancestor's resurrection failed, his disciple would have a chance to live. Kid. Junrin Tonggu said in his heart, if you're lucky enough to come out alive this time, let's see if you still dare to join in the fun in the future. As the devil chi released by the demonic gate gradually weakened, the powerhouses of various clans and sects breathed a sigh of relief and secretly prayed that the fiend ancestor's resurrection would fail. That way, the upper realm would be as stable as before. But in reality, whether or not the fiend ancestor could be resurrected still depended on Jun Changxiao because his body had not been occupied yet. Without Yao Menjing as the catalyst, the follow-up plan could not be carried out at all. This problem was not important anymore. What was important was that the fiend ancestor wanted to end the resurrection process to preserve his devil chi, but he could not control it at all and was crazily devoured and refined. The current situation was that he had become the catalyst, helping Jun Changshao to continuously increase the strength of the two spirits and helping him to enter the body of a young man. Thank you. No. No, no, no. The fiend ancestor screamed in panic. The land of demonic affinity had existed for 100,000 years. Every time it opened and every sacrifice, there would be enough devil blood and devil souls to carry out the resurrection plan. Now that there was a sudden change, the most serious consequence was that the soul would be completely destroyed. The perpetrator became the victim in an instant. It was sad and pitiful. Plop. Plop. As all the devil qi in the palace was drawn to Jun Changxiao's area, Gu Zhaoxi, Li Qingyang, and the others were relieved and fell weakly to the ground. Then, they stared at the patriarch who was shrouded in 3 layers of energy with their eyes wide open. From the ferocious look on his face to the radiant look on his face, this change was too big. Ka ka ka. Ka 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 ka. At this moment, the sound of cracking could be heard. The second layer of stone gradually shattered and turned into powder that covered Jun Changshao again. His exposed skin quickly turned into stone. Gu Zhaoxi exclaimed, "The stone statue race's bloodline is about to awaken." To be honest, everything that he saw in this short period of time had shocked him. But the most shocking thing was that his brother actually had the stone statue race's bloodline, and it was awakening at the critical moment. From what he knew, the awakening of a race's bloodline was mostly carried out in the bloodline pool in the race's territory. This kind of sudden awakening was really against common sense. Ah! At this moment, the fiend ancestor's angry roar could be heard from the palace. Then, as if using some kind of magical ability, he forcefully isolated the devil qi. The strange lines on the ground and walls quickly faded. The red water ball formed by the devil blood and devil souls quickly weakened and disappeared after losing the supply. The blood pool that had been consumed by more than half also calmed down from its boiling state. Despicable fellow, just you wait. Swish. A black stream of light visible to the naked eye flew out from the bottom of the blood pool and then instantly flew out of the palace and disappeared along the tunnel. The fiend ancestor's remnant soul had escaped. This meant that the resurrection plan had completely failed. What's going on? I feel like I had a dream just now. The demonic cultivators in the secret door tunnel regained consciousness. The 10 demon beast heads in the palace also stopped bleeding, which meant that the demonic cultivators in the 10 stone doors were also safe. In that case, not only did Jun Changshao save Yao Menjing and prevent the fiend ancestor from occupying his body, he also saved a large number of demonic cultivators who were like lambs waiting to be slaughtered. It could be considered a boundless merit. However, the surviving demonic cultivators did not know that they had been saved, so they did a good deed without leaving their names. Especially the demonic cultivators in the secret door, after completely regaining consciousness, they continued to move forward along the tunnel. Soon, they arrived at the palace and saw the exquisite box in Yao Menjing's hands. Could this be the opportunity left here by the fiend ancestor? In an instant, the demonic cultivators who appeared in the palace had the strongest greed in their eyes, and the devil qi in their bodies became restless. Boom! The sound of a heavy landing could be heard. Xiao Ziji used the special effects of the text to transform into a Gundam and set up a large heavy machine gun. He placed his hands on top of it and locked onto the group of demonic cultivators who were eager to give it a try. He coldly said, "I advise you to be kind." Pa! Yi Xingqian's right hand grabbed at the air, and the Fangtian halberd appeared. At the same time, he also put on the unparalleled battle robe, and said indifferently, "Trash." Zzz. Li Qingyang took out his exclusive divine armament, drew a line in front of the blood pool with the light of thunder, and said, "Those who cross the thunder pool, die." The blood pool instantly turned into a thunder pool. This was very hardcore. Chapter 1467. The revival failed, demon ancestor turned into a soul and slipped away. However, Jun Changshao and Yao Menjing were still sitting on the thrones. Evidently they had not completely dissolved the remnant demonic qi. At this time, a large group of demonic cultivators who had regained consciousness walked into the underground palace, staring at the exquisite box with greed in their eyes, clearly intending to snatch it. They saved them, but in the end, they had to snatch it. This was a cruel reality. But they were demonic cultivators after all, they had no moral bottom line. Moreover, even Jun Changshao did not expect that when he saved his disciples, he would also save these people. Because he was distracted by refining the demonic qi, Gou Xing did not have any defense. Any martial artist could easily kill him. It was not a big problem. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the rest stood at the side, forming a defensive formation. Although the powerful demonic qi in the palace had completely dissipated, because of the confrontation between the sect of all times and the large group of demonic cultivators, the atmosphere became austere again. Whoosh! Gu Zhaoxi's fingers created flames, he lowered his head and lit an electronic cigar, then he blew out a smoke ring, his gaze turning cold as he said, "If you don't want to die, quickly scram." A large group of demonic cultivators had wariness in their eyes. Li Qingyang and the rest did not give them much pressure. After all, they only had rank 1 cultivation, while the rank 8 Gu Zhaoxi was a bit stronger. Greed could drive one's mind to do irrational things. If the disparity in strength was too great, one would definitely not blindly charge forward to die. This showed they could temporarily maintain their rationality. However, the next sentence caused the demonic cultivators to go completely crazy. The exquisite box contains my innate sacred demon body, whoever obtains it can inherit the legacy of the Mad Devil tribe. The person who spoke was the remnant soul of demon ancestor. It seemed that he was unwilling to accept the failure of his revival, and wanted to use the demonic cultivators to get rid of Jun Changshao who ruined his plan. The plan that had been brewing for tens of thousands of years was finally implemented, but it failed because of an outsider. No one would be able to swallow this anger. Demon ancestor's scheme was not bad. When the demonic cultivators who were still afraid heard this, it was as if their bodies were injected with chicken blood. Not only were they excited, the greed in their eyes also reached the peak. Crazy. Gu Zhaoxi frowned. They're crazy. The innate sacred devil body was the apex physique of the demonic Tao. After inheriting it, one could obtain the legacy of the Mad Devil clan. This would definitely drive demonic cultivators crazy. Go. Swoosh. Schwa. Whoosh. Several rank 5 and 6 demonic cultivators led the charge. With someone taking the lead, it immediately triggered a chain reaction. The several thousand demonic path martial artists gathered at the entrance of the palace began to move together. They didn't plan to confront Li Qingyang and the others. Instead, they decided to circle around them and only focus on snatching the exquisite boxes. You're courting death. Gu Zhaoxi was filled with killing intent. Crack. At that moment, Xiao Ziji lowered the heavy machine gun and aimed it at the few demon cultivators who had gone around first. Without any emotion, he pulled the trigger. Da-da-da-da-da. Ding. 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 The bullets hit the barrier in front of the demonic cultivators and bounced off. This kind of firearm was very easy to deal with the demonic fog beasts in the demonic fog forest, but against a 5th or 6th transformation expert, it would be very difficult. Ta! Gu Zhaoxi threw the electronic cigar that he had just smoked on the ground and rubbed it with his feet. Leave the high-level ones to me. I'll leave the low-level ones to you guys. Hoo-hoo. As soon as he finished his sentence, he charged forward. Heaven-crossing palm imprint. Who? Numerous palm imprints were formed from his true spirit and blasted towards the demonic cultivators who had gone around them. The strength of the palm imprints made Li Qingyang and the others feel ashamed of their inferiority. Gu Zhaoxi was strong and had a high comprehension ability. This kind of unique martial art could only display its true might in his hands. Boom! Boom! Several rank 5 and 6 demonic cultivators who wanted to charge towards the throne were sent flying and crashed into the wall. Their faces were all pale as they spat out blood. Hoo hoo! Hoo hoo hoo! Gu Zhaoxi's strength couldn't stop the greedy demonic cultivators. They charged over from different directions with only one thought in their minds. Snatch the exquisite box in Yao Menjing's hands and obtain the innate saint demon body. In the face of absolute profits, merchants were willing to take risks. In the face of absolute martial arts resources, demonic cultivators naturally wouldn't care about their lives. Junior brother Xiao, stop the people behind. Ka! Xiao Ziji turned his arms and aimed his gun at the demonic cultivators behind him. He didn't loosen his grip on the trigger, and bullets shot out like they were free. Against a high-level revolving core realm, firearms were useless. But against a rank 1 or rank 1 martial artist, as long as the firepower was strong enough and the speed of the bullets was fast enough, they would definitely explode. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, 2 rank 1 revolving core realm cultivators were turned into sieves. Who? Yi Xingqian leaped up and turned into an unparalleled warrior. He swung his halberd and swept it across the battlefield. His movements were as ferocious as a tiger. Looking at the battle record, he directly took down 4 rank 1 revolving core realm cultivators. ZZZ. Between Li Qingyang and Su Xiaoma, Li Qingyang infused lightning into his sword and slashed out bolts of lightning sword qi. Su Xiaoma, on the other hand, relied on her speed to block the attacks. Many of the warriors' movements were blocked, making it difficult for them to approach the throne. However, there were too many demonic cultivators. Moreover, their abilities were all at the first transition. Even if they could rely on their equipment to fight against a second transition, what about a third or fourth transition? Therefore, this defensive battle still depended on Gu Zhaoxi because he was the only one who had the strength to crush them. Boom! 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 As expected, this little brother was quite wild when he was irritable. As long as the fist shadows spread out, they would definitely send a group of martial artists flying, making it impossible for them to get close to Jun Changshao. A battle between the sect of all times and a large group of demonic cultivators began in the underground palace, but it was about to end, because, who? Jun Changshao, who was sitting on the throne, exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. Then, he slowly opened his eyes and said in a low voice, although my strength hasn't increased, I feel that I've become much stronger. Patriarch. Yao Menjing said happily, I've also broken through to the second transition core transformation realm. The little girl had been picking up scraps from the upper void piercing realm to the second transition core transformation realm. It could be seen how powerful the power of money was. Jun Changshao put her down and stood up to do some chest exercises. Looking at the group of demonic cultivators who were charging over, his gaze gradually turned cold. No matter what was in this exquisite box, it was found by my disciple first. Since you dare to snatch it, then, Shua. Jun Changshao disappeared. When the camera caught up, he had already appeared in front of Gu Zhaoxi. His right fist punched a demonic cultivator's face, and he said, Go to hell. Boom! The demonic cultivator who was hit crashed into the wall like a cannonball. His chest caved in, and his mind was completely disconnected from his brain. Fuck! Gu Zhaoxi's eyes widened. The demonic cultivator who attacked was at the 6th transition, and his brother was at the same level. They were at the same realm, but he was actually killed in one punch. This was too exaggerated. No. At this moment, Gu Zhaoxi clearly saw Jun Changxiao's clenched right fist and his exposed skin petrified. He suddenly realized, brother used the power of the stone statue. TSK. Jun Changxiao raised his hand and said in surprise, armament hockey. Shua. Clenching his fists, the new energy gathered in his dantian quickly erupted. His entire body quickly petrified, and even his appearance turned into a gargoyle. The greedy demonic cultivators saw this and exclaimed in unison, "Stone Statue Clan." Shwa! Jun Changshao appeared in front of a fourth transition core transformation realm martial artist out of thin air. He leaned sideways and lightly raised his finger, pointing it between his eyebrows, and said coldly, "Die." Whoosh! Because the scene was too bloody, the camera automatically changed angles. They only saw the splashing of blood, and then, the martial artist fell to the ground and turned into a corpse. Patriarch, Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others were dumbfounded. From the moment he appeared in front of the demonic cultivator to the moment he killed him, the whole process couldn't be any simpler. However, this scene was still playing out. The petrified Jun Changshao seemed to have transformed into a demon. As long as he appeared in front of the enemy, he would point his middle finger at their forehead and take their lives. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Bang bang bang. In a short period of time, Jun Changshao stopped in front of Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others. The corpses of demonic cultivators lying behind him had already reached more than 300, and the cause of death was all pierced through the head. Sure enough. Seeing his brother killing so cruelly, Gu Zhaoxi secretly said in his heart, just like the storyteller said, the Stone Statue Clan who has awakened their bloodline is violent and ruthless. Jun Changxiao's performance was too strong and brutal, instantly calming down the demonic cultivators behind him. Then, they retreated step by step in fear. This was not a human. This was a stone statue ghost. The land of demonic fate created by the demon ancestor is nothing more than a place to revive himself. You all came in to be sacrificed, and now that I have saved you all, not only do you not know how to be grateful, you even dare to snatch my things. This is really. Jun Changshao said coldly, you deserve to die. Before the word die could finish, streams of light exploded in the sky. Puchi. 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 The hundreds of demonic cultivators who had yet to leave the palace, regardless of whether they were at rank 3 or 4 or rank 1 or rank 2, had their heads pierced through. After coming to the upper realm, Jun Changshao rarely made a move and had been keeping a low profile to develop. Now that he had started a massacre in the palace, it was as if he was dreaming of the devil who was crazily slaughtering in the plain battlefield. The difference was, this time, he did not use the unstoppable blade, but relied on his own strength. Patriarch, Li Qingyang wanted to say something but hesitated. This group of demonic cultivators wanted to snatch the opportunity from his junior sister, so it was natural for them to be killed. However, he felt that the petrified patriarch seemed to have changed. He had become emotionless. If not for the fact that he could still speak normally, he would be worried that he had gone berserk. Second senior brother. Su Xiaomua transmitted his voice, Patriarch is a little strange. He also noticed the difference, and even felt a sense of strangeness. Jun Changshao had changed. The petrified him no longer had that annoying and despicable expression. He also did not have the gentle look he had when facing his disciples. Instead, he had his back facing them, emitting a cold and stern feeling that made it difficult for people to approach him. Could it be that under the influence of the demonic aura, his personality has changed greatly? He would thought to himself. Brother. Call me Patriarch. Gu Zhaoxi hurriedly changed his words, Patriarch, since this is a trap set by the demon ancestor, there might not be any opportunities here. We should quickly think of a way to get out. Let's go. Jun Changshao got up first and walked to the entrance of the tunnel. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others skillfully collected the demonic cultivator's spatial rings. It's a waste of space to carry unimportant things, Jun Changshao said calmly. Huh? Everyone was dumbfounded. Didn't you teach us to lick every bag? Second senior brother. Su Xiaomua said with certainty in his heart, there must be something wrong with Patriarch. 10 stone doors. The survivors who entered came out one after another. Although they looked miserable, they did not have any major injuries. Although only a short time had passed, only 80 to 90,000 demonic cultivators survived. The rest had all been sacrificed. Someone said in surprise, "Why is there a door in the distance? Let's go. Let's go take a look." Everyone immediately rushed to the secret door. Clearly, they had not given up on searching for opportunities. The surviving demonic cultivators had just walked over when they coincidentally saw Jun Changshao walking over with his disciples. Because he was petrified, he looked very scary. "Boss!" A martial artist pointed at the exquisite box in Yao Menjing's arms and said, "There might be some treasure hidden inside." The others also realized it, and their eyes lit up. "That's right." The demon ancestor's voice sounded again, saying, "It contains the connate holy demon body. Whoever obtains it will inherit the mantle of the demonic tribe." "Old man." Jun Changshao looked up and said angrily, "Your path is getting narrower." Tens of thousands of demonic cultivators were attracted by the demon ancestor's words. They stared at the exquisite box with burning eyes. An hour later, Gu Zhaoxi took out the cigar that he had just stomped out. Then, he patted off the dirt on it and lit it up. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others stood in place, a little stunned. Because in their vision, tens of thousands of demonic cultivators' corpses were lying in front of them. Their blood had gathered into a river and was emitting a pungent smell. Bang! Jun Changshao held the green dragon crescent blade in front of him. Judging from the bloodstains on the blade, these tens of thousands of demonic cultivators had all been killed by him. Cruel, ruthless. Chapter 1468. Greed could drive a person crazy, but death could keep a person awake. When Jun Changshao stood in front of the countless corpses, the remaining 10,000 demonic cultivators all became obedient. Their burning gazes had long been replaced by fear. In a short time, he had killed tens of thousands. This petrified man was simply a demon. "Do you want more?" Jun Changshao coldly turned his head and said. From his words, one could tell that his thoughts were normal, but there was no emotion in his eyes, which made Li Qingyang and the others feel more and more unfamiliar. "Senior brother." Su Xiaomao said worriedly, "Could the patriarch have gone mad?" "He won't." Gu Zhaoxi said first, "The patriarch has only awakened the bloodline of the stone statue race and is currently in a petrified state. He will return to normal after the state is removed." "I see." Everyone immediately let out a sigh of relief. What they did not understand was, when did the patriarch have the bloodline of the stone statue race? Could it be that he was not human from the beginning? Gu Zhaoxi was also very puzzled about this point. From their previous contact, he was 100% sure that his brother was definitely human. But why did he awaken the bloodline of the stone statue race in the land of demon affinity? "Girl," Jun Changshao said indifferently, "open the box and see what's inside." "Yes." Yao Menjing first placed the exquisite box that could not be put into the spatial ring on the ground, then pulled the layers of locks and opened it. Whoosh! Suddenly, a stream of light flew out from inside. Jun Changshao waved his hand, and the power of the true spirit turned into a large hand and directly caught it. It was a little fellow that was similar to a soul. It frantically struggled in the palm but could not break free. The remaining 10,000 demonic cultivators' eyes lit up again, but when they saw Jun Changshao's expressionless face, they immediately suppressed the greed that was about to rise. They were completely terrified. Even if it was a miraculous elixir, they would not dare to snatch it after eating it. In the face of absolute fear, greed was nothing. "Is this the innate saint devil body?" Gu Zhaoxi asked. Just now, the demon ancestor's voice clearly had the intention of inciting the demonic cultivators to attack crazily, so he didn't think that there was a physical body inside the box. Now that he saw the anthropomorphic soul body, he was immediately shaken. Lass. Jun Changshao said, steady your mind, I'll help you fuse. He couldn't be sure if this was the innate holy devil body, but he could feel the pure devil qi inside. If he fused with his disciple, he should be able to benefit from it. Yes. Yao Menjing sat cross-legged, concealing her spirit and qi. Jun Changshao squeezed the soul and said coldly, cooperate with me, or else, hoo. Scorching and pure flames suddenly appeared and gathered in the surroundings. It was obvious that it was carrying out the most unforgettable threat. The little guy seemed to have spiritual intelligence. He was so scared that he started to tremble. Although he wasn't sure what it was, it definitely belonged to a demonic creature due to the majestic demonic qi in its body. The recently strengthened fire spirit should be able to restrain it. Who? The little guy was very cooperative and turned into a wisp of gas. Jun Changshao was worried that the other party would play tricks, so he first set up an isolation array before slowly letting go of his hand. Swish! The demonic qi broke free and fused into Yao Menjing's body. In an instant, the crescent moon pattern appeared on the girl's forehead again, looking more dazzling and enchanting than before. Hoo. Majestic demonic qi emerged and gradually enveloped her body, finally forming a black sphere. Li Qingyang and the others didn't know what their junior sister was fusing with, but they all guarded around the array. They were constantly on guard against the remaining demonic cultivators, afraid that they would lose their minds and rush over. Jun Changshao didn't stay idle either. He released his mind to envelop Yao Menjing the whole time. Xiaohua and little Xie were on standby. If there were any accidents during this period, they would definitely rush in and refine the demonic qi that might cause harm. Safety Index, 10 stars. However, just as Yao Menjing was fusing with the soul, the group of Zanyue pavilion experts that Ryu Sinan had seen before were in a secret area of the land of demon fate, kneeling in front of a huge statue devoutly. Hoo. A cloud of demonic qi flew out and hovered in the air. Several Zanyue pavilion experts chanted strange incantations and formed strange seals with their hands. A complicated pattern gradually appeared around the sphere placed in front of them. Swish! The demonic qi was drawn in and instantly drilled in. Greetings, my lord. The Zanyue pavilion experts knelt on the ground and shouted with great sincerity. We can't stay here for long. A deep voice came from the sphere that was gathering demonic qi. Quickly activate the spirit rotation array and leave. Yes. Several Zanyue pavilion experts stood apart and used themselves as the eye of the array. They instantly condensed a gorgeous flowing light barrier, and with a swish, they all disappeared on the spot. You bastard, ruining one of my resurrection plans. This debt will be settled in the future. The deep voice sounded. Jun Changshao, who was guarding Yao Menjing, suddenly frowned. These words were usually said when escaping. Could it be that the remnant soul of the demon ancestor had left the land of demon fate? Also, one of the resurrection plans. Could it be that the other party left behind multiple resurrection plans before dying? Humph, Jun Changshao said with a cold face, you tried to use my disciple as a carrier to resurrect. I don't care what follow-up plans you have, I will definitely make you die every time you resurrect. The remnant soul of the demon ancestor remembered Gosheng, and Gosheng also remembered him. A grudge had been formed, and if they met again in the future, they would definitely be mortal enemies. Bang! At this moment, the demonic qi that had gathered around Yao Menjing suddenly exploded and turned into wisps of energy that merged into her body. Patriarch. She opened her eyes and said happily, this is indeed the connate holy demon body. The fusion was successful? Jun Changshao asked. Yes. A bright smile appeared on Yao Menjing's face. The evolution of the connate holy demon body into the connate holy demon body would be of great help to her future demonic cultivation. The remaining demonic cultivators' eyes shone with envy. That was the strongest physique of the demonic path. It was a great opportunity, and it was inherited by a woman just like that. Let's go. Jun Changshao said, leave this place. How do we leave? Gu Zhaoxi frowned and asked. The land of demonic affinity was an absolutely sealed space. They had no idea how to leave after entering through the huge iron gate. Simple. Jun Changshao gathered power in his fist, looked up at the space surrounded by flowing light, and said, break it. No, no. Gu Zhaoxi hurriedly advised, this place is related to the origin of the upper realm. If you break it open by force, I'm afraid there will be chaos. As a trader, he was not afraid of anything. However, Jun Changshao chose to break the land of demonic affinity by force, which made him very nervous. After all, who knew what kind of irreversible disaster would occur in the upper realm if this place was destroyed? This was the brilliance of the demon ancestor back then. He connected the independent space with the origin, forcing the 10 great sects to be cautious. That was why it could exist for 100,000 years. Otherwise, it would have been destroyed long ago. How do we get out if we don't break it open? Jun Changshao asked. Patriarch. Yao Menjing said, I can communicate with the huge iron gate outside. I should be able to open an exit from the inside. Chapter 1469. In the outside world. The huge iron gate, which was originally grand and imposing, had lost the slightest bit of devil chi, and the pattern on it had become dim and lifeless. Why is there no movement? It seems that the demon ancestor's resurrection has failed. That's for the best, that's for the best. Just as everyone was discussing, the huge iron door suddenly shook, and then slowly opened from the bottom up. The door is open. The experts of various sects and races became alert again, and even released all kinds of energy. They had no idea what was going on inside, but if the demon ancestor was resurrected, he might appear, so everyone was prepared for a fierce battle. Jinren Tonggu and Masato Kitano also became serious. At this moment, in their opinion, the opening of the iron door might mean that a disaster was about to come. Whoosh! 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 Demonic aura emerged from the gap. Astonishment appeared on the faces of the experts who were waiting for the battle. This independent space created by the demon ancestor should have a strong demonic aura, but why did it seem so ordinary, even worse than some of the demon path's treasured lands? Because it had all been refined. Boom! At this moment, the huge iron door opened completely. The experts of various sects and races gathered nearby suddenly became nervous. However, when Jun Changshao walked out with his disciple first, everyone's expressions froze. In a short time, they had imagined countless scenes, but they had never imagined that a group of orthodox martial artists would walk out first. Disciple. Jinren Tonggu said happily. Jun Changshao, who had just walked out of the land of demon affinity, was surprised. Why is Master here? It's all because of you. Jinren Tonggu roared. Wait. Is there something wrong with this guy's skin? Jinren Tonggu immediately thought of something, and was shocked. Stone Statue Clan. In the 3 great combat clans, stony skin was the best way to prove one's identity. The experts of various sects looked incredulous. It was strange enough that a few orthodox martial artists walked out of the land of demon affinity, but why was there a stone statue clan? And it was Jinren Tonggu's disciple. Wasn't his disciple the patriarch of the sect of all times? Since when did a young man who had just ascended from the lower realm have anything to do with the stone statue clan? Because there was too much information, all the major sects were a little stunned. Of course. However, this was not the main point. The main point was that the young girl standing in the middle of several orthodox martial artists was emitting an aura that was different from that of ordinary demonic cultivators. Thus, They all frowned. Something's not right. Masato Kitano said gravely. Jinren Tonggu also fixed his gaze on Yao Menjing and thought to himself, this girl's devil chi is so strange. Could it be that she has inherited the opportunity of the land of devil affinity? Innate Saint Devil body. An immortal sect elder pondered for a moment and said, this girl has inherited the demon ancestor's physique. Who? In an instant, the cultivators of the other immortal sects nearby erupted with their cultivation as they stared at Yao Menjing in a state of high alert. They did not know if the demon ancestor had been revived, but now that his physique had been inherited by someone else, he was still a huge threat. Therefore, he had to be eliminated. We're in big trouble. Gu Zhaoxi broke down in his heart. With so many experts of the truth-seeking realm present, if they really fought, the consequences would definitely be terrible. He thought that after coming out of the land of devil affinity safely, the matter would be over, but he did not expect that there would be an even more troublesome problem waiting for him. The cultivation of the experts of the various sects erupted at the same time, and an invisible aura spread out, making Li Qingyang and the others a little short of breath. How could he face a truth-seeking realm expert when he had just reached the first transformation? Brother. Gu Zhaoxi said telepathically, in the next life, let's be brothers of life and death. He was prepared to die, and he was prepared to be reincarnated. But when he thought that he could be resurrected with the spirit of reincarnation, his brother, what do you want to do? Because he was still in a petrified state, Jun Changxiao's words were still cold. If this kind of personality would continue to the end, the collapse of the style would be unbearable to watch. Kid. An immortal sect expert said, the girl behind you has inherited the demon ancestor's physique. In the future, she will definitely bring disaster to the entire upper realm. So, kill her and put an end to the disaster. Jun Changxiao's eyes gradually turned cold, and he said, whoever dares to hurt my disciple, I will grind his bones to dust. Gu Zhaoxi was convinced. With so many top truth-seeking realm experts present, their auras were so oppressive that it made him panic, but his brother could still say such arrogant words. He could only say awesome. The immortal sect expert said with a straight face, Jinren Tonggu, is your disciple going to protect the demoness? Heh. Jinren Tonggu said, as the leader of a sect, is it wrong to protect your disciple? At this moment, he and Masato Kitano had already changed positions. Standing in front of Jun Changxiao, he released his cultivation to form a barrier, blocking the unfriendly aura that was constantly pressing down. Obviously, a patriarch protects his disciple, and a master protects his disciple. This was what it meant to be a teacher. As the saying goes, people of the same family would not enter the same house. For Jun Changxiao to have such a master, it could be said that their personalities were similar. Alas! Masato Kitano sighed. This guy was planning to fight against the 10 major immortal sects for his disciple. As a friend, how could he ignore it? In just a few words, he had expressed his feelings for the sect, the relationship between master and disciple, and the relationship between friends. This author was simply a great talent. He deserved to be on the monthly votes list and the recommendation list. Yao Menjing's inheritance of the connate holy fiend body was known by the 10 major immortal sects. This trouble was a bit big for Jun Changxiao, no less than the beast egg incident. Without a doubt, Jinren Tonggu was the scapegoat again. However, not only was he willing to take the blame, but he was also unwavering in protecting his disciple. His master was really too dedicated to his job. The faces of the powerhouses of the 10 major immortal sects all darkened. Jinren Tonggu. A powerhouse said in a deep voice, that girl has inherited the demon ancestor's physique. When she grows up, she will definitely bring disaster to the world. You and Masato Kitano are helping the evildoer. Bringing disaster to the world as soon as you open your mouth. Do you think you have the ability to predict the future? Jinren Tonggu said lightly. Masato Kitano said, the land of demon affinity is related to the origin of heaven and earth, which means that it has been recognized by the heavenly axiom. Now that she has obtained the demon ancestor's physique, it's really a fortuitous encounter. Why do you have to push it? What he meant was that if the fortuitous encounter in the land of demon affinity was dangerous, the heavenly axiom would definitely not allow it to exist. Humph, a powerhouse from the immortal sects said coldly, the demon ancestor might have entered the divine secret realm when he was alive. It's not impossible for him to block the heavenly axiom's prying. Ha ha ha. Junrin Tonggu laughed and said, if that guy had entered the third step, how could the demonic tribe have been destroyed? How could the 10 major immortal sects still exist today? Gu Zhaoxi immediately understood from his words that the demon ancestor should not have broken through the third step when he was alive. Otherwise, the 10 major immortal sects would have become history instead of the demonic tribe. Cut the crap. This demoness must die today. No one can protect her. The 10 major immortal sects had already made up their minds. They would not rest until they got rid of the inheritor of the demon ancestor's physique. Of course, they could not be the only ones to deal with such a matter that could endanger the entire world. Therefore, a powerhouse from the immortal sects looked at the various clans and said, everyone, let's take a stand. I think that as long as the demon ancestor is not resurrected, the problem is not too big. So, there's no need to make things difficult for a girl. There are many variables in the future. Let's not imagine it on our own. The Divine Strider clan knows June Patriarch's character very well. Even if this girl becomes a heinous demon in the future, she will definitely turn over a new leaf under his teachings. Chapter 1470. Back then, it was not only the 10 major immortal sects that destroyed the Moong clan, but also the other clans. Now that the fiend ancestor was resurrected, the latter also sent experts over. To put it bluntly, everyone was a grasshopper tied to the same rope. When disaster struck, no one would be able to escape first. Therefore, this time, Yao Menjing inherited the Khanate holy fiend body. In order to prevent any future crises, the 10 major immortal sects and the other clans had to express their stance. They didn't believe it. Junrin Tonggu and Masato Kitano dared to go against the whole world. However, what made the experts of the immortal sects confused was that the representatives of the other clans expressed their stance one after another and stood on Jun Changxiao's side, instantly isolating them. The faces of the 10 immortal sects experts instantly turned green with anger. In fact, they didn't know that just now, Jun Changxiao gave the other clans a look, as if to say, do you see my disciple? Think carefully before you express your stance. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others approached Yao Menjing, their eyes shining with determination. What did this mean? It meant that if anyone dared to touch junior sister, they had to fight with their lives. The experts of the other clans suddenly panicked. Their successors or elite juniors had all signed a life contract with the sect of all times. If anything happened to them, they would definitely be buried with them. No. They couldn't express their stance. After a short moment of consideration, the experts of the other clans made up their minds and stood on Jun Changxiao's side. No one knew if the girl who inherited the fiend ancestor's body would do evil in the future. If they supported the 10 major immortal sects and lost their elite soldiers, it was definitely not worth it. The 10 major immortal sects and the other clans were in the same boat, and the disciples of the sect of all times and the other clans were in the same boat. This relationship was really a bit messy. Phew. Junrin Tonggu and Masato Kitano secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Although the two brothers stood in front of Jun Changxiao to confront the 10 major immortal sects, they were actually under a lot of pressure. If they also confronted the other clans, they wouldn't be able to live in the future. Everyone. Jun Changxiao said indifferently, although my sect's disciple has inherited the innate holy devil body, he hasn't done anything devoid of conscience. Please don't accuse him of a groundless crime. Otherwise. He paused for a moment and said, my stone statue race won't agree. He admitted it. This guy was indeed from the stone statue clan. At the same time, the experts of the various clans were muttering in their hearts. They all agreed that they had chosen the right side. The upper realm was dominated by the human race, but the stone statue clan, one of the three most powerful clans, was still not to be underestimated. After all of them were hot-tempered, and if they were provoked, they would definitely pay a painful price. The experts of the 10 major celestial sects frowned. They could tell that this guy was using the stone statue race to pressure them. However, even though he clearly knew their intentions, he didn't dare to act blindly without thinking, because this berserk tribe was indeed a little troublesome. Of course. Jun Changshao said, in the future, if my disciples commit any heinous crimes, you don't have to do anything. I will deal with them myself. With the support of his master and the various clans, he could have been more arrogant, but he still chose to minimize the problem. After all, with his current strength, he couldn't fight against the 10 major celestial sects. Furthermore, if they made a scene, they might not benefit. Jun Changshao's current strategy was still to develop in a low-key manner, and only when he had real strength would he challenge the major forces. Jun Patriarch. An immortal sect expert said coldly, this girl is very dangerous. I hope you can teach her well. If one day she does something intolerable, we won't show mercy. Let's go. With the protection of Jinren Tonggu and Masato Kitano, as well as a group of fence-sitters, the 10 major celestial sects naturally couldn't do anything to Yao Menjing, so they could only leave reluctantly. The murderous aura that gathered in the sky gradually dissipated, and the iron gate hanging in the sky also disappeared. It announced the end of the land of demonic fate that occurred once in 100 years, and it was the kind that would never appear again. Because the opportunity was gone, the remnant soul of the demon ancestor was also taken away. To summarize, Yao Menjing obtained the innate holy demon body. Xiaohua and Little Xia absorbed all kinds of demonic qi used to resurrect the demon ancestor, and their strength was greatly improved. And, after confirming that the 10 major celestial sects had left, Jun Changshao recovered from his petrified appearance, and his whole person became handsome again. He's back, he's back. This is the patriarch we're familiar with. Seeing Jun Changshao's complexion gradually return to normal, and a bone-deep despicable aura spread out, Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others immediately smiled. Stinking brat. Jinren Tonggu scolded, will you die if you don't cause trouble? Even the always gentle Masato Kitano frowned and scolded, the demonic qi in the land of demonic fate is rampant, it's a miracle that you can come out alive. In the future, don't, senior, smoke. Jun Changshao hurriedly handed over a cigar. Masato Kitano rolled his eyes and took it away, swallowing back the words he wanted to say. After all, he had taken someone else's hand and mouth. Of course. As a fastidious person, Go Sheng would definitely not mistreat the powerhouses of the various clans who helped him, so they all sent over the sect of all-time specialties to express their gratitude. What specialties? Magnetite commonly seen in the market. The various clans who were originally unhappy because of the threat immediately felt the grudge in their hearts disappear after receiving the benefits. There was no problem in the world that couldn't be solved with money, and if there was, it was not enough. Jun Patriarch, farewell. Have a safe journey. Jun Changshao cupped his fists and sent off the powerhouses of the various clans, then transmitted his voice to his disciples, why didn't you pick up the interspatial rings of those demonic cultivators I killed just now? Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others immediately widened their eyes. Disciple. Jinren Tonggu said seriously, your disciple has the connate holy demon body, and will always be a threat to the 10 major celestial sects. You must be careful in the future, and don't let them catch you. Okay. Jun Changshao nodded and said, I understand. In fact, He knew very well that the 10 major celestial sects killing Yao Menjing was not necessarily for the sake of the world, but because they were worried that when she was fully developed and inherited the will of the demon ancestor, she would bring trouble to them, and even shake their position in the upper realm. Actually, Jun Changshao said to himself, you should be more worried about me, not my disciple, because it's hard to say whether she will bring you trouble, but as long as I become stronger, I will definitely start with the realm hall you've built. There's nothing wrong with that. The system said, the host is the biggest threat. Fuck. Jun Changshao cursed in his heart, I thought you were dead. No. The system said, the moment the demonic energy entered the host's body, I entered a state of upgrade, and I have no idea what happened after that. TSK. This excuse was simply perfect. I see. Jun Changshao did not think much about it, but the seed of anger had already sprouted in his heart. This time, with the help of his master and the various clans, the 10 major celestial sects did not succeed, but what if they were not there? Would he not have to watch his disciple be killed? So, the conflict between him and the realm hall was getting deeper. If it were not for the limitation of their strength, they would definitely turn hostile, even if it would cause chaos in the world. The importance of his disciple in Jun Changxiao's heart did not need to be deliberately described. In short, if someone really dared to hurt them, it was normal to destroy the whole world. Chapter 1471. Junren Tonggu did not leave immediately and stayed in Demon Fate City for a day. During this time, he gave Jun Changxiao lessons, telling him to keep a low profile and not stir up trouble. He should focus on the promise of 10 years. He. The system laughed. If he did not stir up trouble, would he still be Go Sheng? Master, don't worry. Jun Changxiao patted his chest and vowed, on the day of the promise, disciple will defeat Gu Hongjinren's disciple and make master proud. Don't lie. Junren Tonggu said in annoyance, master is asking you, what is your current realm? Speaking of cultivation, he was a little sad. After all, after 2 years of hellish training, he did not even advance to rank 2. His reputation was ruined. Jun Changxiao scratched his head, I just entered rank 6. Only rank 2. Junren Tonggu slumped on the chair, showing an expression of despair. According to the rules of the Transmigration Association, to make it easier for the readers to understand, there was no need to learn a foreign language. Transmigrators and the world they transmigrated to had to speak Chinese. Thus, if one did not pronounce the word 6 clearly, it could be mistaken as 2. Jun Changxiao did not intentionally repeat himself. Instead, he released his rank 6 cultivation and used the power of the fire soul and the power of evil, causing his realm to erupt. Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh. Powerful waves of air gathered in the guest room, the momentum was not inferior to rank 7 or 8. Although Go Sheng's realm did not increase under the reverse nurturing of the power of Krypton learning, his strength had increased significantly. Especially his soul, muscles, and bloodline, they had undergone earth-shattering changes. To put it bluntly, suffering from the demonic energy was not in vain. The barking Jun Changxiao had gained a lot. Previously, when he ruthlessly killed the greedy demonic cultivators in the land of demon fate, it was proof of his strength. Because there were many rank 7 and 8 demonic cultivators who were killed. In the stricter upper realm, the difference between rank 1 and rank 1 was like a mountain. Only the rank 6 Go Sheng could kill rank 7 and 8 demonic cultivators. This meant that he had activated the mode of fighting above his rank. That was understandable. After all, the demonic chi that entered his body was used to revive the demon alpha. The vast amount of energy had been stored and refined for a long time. Shwa! Junren Tonggu jumped up from his chair and exclaimed, peak of spirit transformation stage. Go Sheng smiled but said nothing. The best way to show off was not to tell others how strong he was, but to show others how strong he was with his actions. No, no. Jinren Tonggu was in disbelief. This guy had only left the extreme Dao Grotto mansion for less than a year. How did he suddenly step into the sixth transformation from the first transformation? Masato Kitano was also dumbfounded. Breaking through from the first transition to the second transition was still understandable, and one might even think that the improvement was a little slow. However, jumping from the first transition to the sixth transition was a little too big. Master. Jun Changshao said helplessly, to tell you the truth, the sect of all times has a secret manual that requires one to suppress their realm in order to master it. That's why your disciple hasn't been able to improve during the 2 years you've been training me. Later. Your disciple finally comprehended the mental cultivation method to master it, so my realm has been rising all the way, and now I'm at the peak of spirit transformation stage. Jun Changshao had already reached the pinnacle of deceit, so he could come up with all kinds of lies without even needing to think. Is there such a magical mental cultivation method in the world? You need to suppress your realm to improve? Jinren Tonggu was surprised. In fact, he had some doubts in his heart. However, since Jun Changshao's strength had increased by so much, it was definitely a good thing. So, he laughed heartily and said, Master knew that you were an extraordinary person. Sure enough, I wasn't wrong. Masato Kitano's mouth twitched. After 2 years of devil training, his realm remained the same. He didn't have this mentality. However, he still quite agreed with Jinren Tonggu's words, stepping from the first transformation to the sixth transformation in such a short time. This kid is absolutely extraordinary, and even a little too terrifying. The next day, Jinren Tonggu left happily. Jun Changshao had the strength of the sixth transformation, so he was full of expectations for the next 10 years. Old man Gu Hong. Walking to the wilderness, Jinren Tonggu couldn't help but shout, just wait for your defeat. Masato Kitano shook his head. Previously, he was worried in the extreme cave dwelling, but now that his disciple's strength had reached the sixth transformation, he started to be arrogant. Let's go. After a little reorganization, Jun Changshao set off with his disciple back to the sect. On the way, Yao Menjing wiped her tears and cried, Disciple inherited the innate holy demon body, did I bring trouble to the sect? Yesterday, when she was stared at by the experts of the 10 great immortal sects, she was so scared that she could only hide behind the patriarch and tremble. Silly girl. Jun Changshao patted her head and said gently, obtaining the demon ancestor's physique is a great opportunity, how can it be trouble? Let's talk about it later. Do you think your senior brothers and I are people who are afraid of trouble? Li Qingyang and the others held their heads high and puffed out their chests, clearly telling their junior sister that even if there was trouble, the senior brothers would help her. Sob sob sob. Yao Menjing cried until she was in a mess, with the patriarch and senior brothers, I am the happiest person in the world. Jun Changshao said, with you disciples accompanying me, I am also very happy. Other main characters lived for themselves, to become stronger, but he lived for the entire sect, he was like a family man. Ding! Disciple Yao Menjing inherited the opportunity of the land of demonic affinity, obtained 1,000 reputation points. Ding! Sect reputation points, 1,000. Jun Changshao, who was about to be happy, heard the current reputation points and his expression froze. No. The reputation points were wrong. Swoosh. Go Xing hurriedly opened the data panel, the contents were contribution points, 0. Achievement points, 0. Not including the 1,000 points he just obtained, his reputation points were also 0. 3 points, they were all gone. Boom. Jun Changshao felt as if he was struck by 100,000 volts of lightning in an instant, his whole person stood in place with a dull expression. Patriarch? Seeing him stop, Li Qingyang said blankly. Ah! Suddenly, Jun Changshao held his head and roared, why is it all gone? The sudden howl shocked Li Qingyang so much that he took a few steps back and almost fell to the ground. Su Xiaomao, Xiao Ziji, and the others were also shocked. They all muttered in their hearts, what kind of loss would make the patriarch so desperate? System. Jun Changshao roared in his heart, what's the situation? As expected of someone who had followed Gou Sheng for a long time, he paved the way in advance and pushed all the responsibility away. I was leveling up earlier, I didn't know. Bullshit. Jun Changshao roared, this matter must have something to do with you. It's over if you don't admit it. I'm sorry, Gou Sheng will deny it. Whether or not it was because of the system, the loss of 3 points is your responsibility. Outside. Jun Changxiao's whole face was distorted, its color turning from red to purplish black. After working so hard for a few months, the contribution points and achievement points added up to 5 to 6 million, now they were gone just like that. Who could accept this? Sigh. The system said, it's like this, after knowing that this guy activated some kind of crisis removal mode without permission, causing his 3 points to be instantly depleted, Jun Changshao put his hands on his neck and said with a ferocious face, I'll fight it out with you. What's going on? Gu Xiaoxi hurriedly tried to stop him, but was stopped by Su Xiaomao. Patriarch usually likes to hurt himself, martial uncle, there's no need to make a fuss. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others nodded in agreement. They had seen this kind of scene many times and were already used to it. Gu Xiaoxi came to a realization and grinned, so brother also likes to hurt himself, as expected of my life and death brother. Chapter 1472. In the beautiful wilderness, Jun Changshao sat alone on a rock. From afar, he looked like a dispirited old man with 1 foot in the grave. Emptying his 3 points was too much of a blow to him. It had been a few days since he left Magic Fate City, and he was still in a state of mental collapse. It was not easy to earn money these days, and Gou Sheng had become a pauper in the blink of an eye after activating some crappy mode. Second senior brother. Yao Menjing took a bite of a roasted chicken drumstick, and said with her mouth full of oil, Patriarch hasn't eaten or drunk anything for a few days. I'm so heartbroken that I've lost my appetite. Do you want to go talk to him? Su Xiaomao asked. You go. Sure. Su Xiaomao walked over carefully, but before he could say anything, Jun Changshao suddenly turned around and grabbed him by the neck, roaring, I'll kill you. He was possessed. Seeing people was like seeing the system. Zon. Patriarch, it's me. Under Su Xiaomao's intermittent cries, Jun Changshao finally regained his senses and kicked him away. He squatted on the rock and covered his face, howling, my 3 points, my 3 points. Sigh. The system sighed. If I knew it would bring such a huge blow to the host, I definitely wouldn't have activated the crisis resolution mode. Don't talk to me about the mode. Jun Changshao clutched his chest. My heart hurts. The system said, although the host's 3 points have been emptied, you still received a huge benefit. Bullshit. Jun Changshao roared. So many contribution points and achievement points, if you don't give me some benefits, how am I supposed to live? Let's talk about it later. All I got was a physique and little Xia and little Hua's strength increased. Compared to a few million, I can't even bear to look at it. Gou Sheng was on the verge of breaking down. So what if it was emptied? Shouldn't he at least get some benefits? In the end, he only got Yao Menjing to inherit the demon Khanate holy demon physique, and little Xia and little Hua to evolve into teenagers. It was a huge loss. Indeed. If he were to spend a few million contribution points on the merchant shop, the benefits he would obtain would definitely be much greater than the benefits of 1 disciple and 2 spirit bodies. In my opinion. The system said calmly, even if there's no reward, it's worth it to be able to save the life of the host and disciple. Jun Changshao could not refute this. Exchanging 3 points for safety was indeed the best deal. AI. Jun Changshao sighed and said, I seem to have become too unscrupulous. Furthermore, the system said, the host even accidentally awakened the bloodline of the stone statue clan because of this. No matter how you look at it, this transaction is definitely worth it. At the mention of the stone statue race, Jun Changshao immediately became serious and said, "Why do I have such a bloodline? Could it be that the original owner has some secret identity?" Although he didn't want to admit it, Go Sheng was indeed human. Awakening the stone statue race's bloodline in the land of demonic affinity was truly incomprehensible. It went against common sense. Unless, the original owner was not human to begin with. I understand now. Jun Changshao came to a realization and said, "I'm actually a prince left behind by the stone statue race outside. The entire race is waiting for me to revive." The system broke down and said, "The host's imagination is a little wild." Jun Changshao used to fantasize that his father was the celestial emperor, his mother was the celestial empress, and he was the son of heaven who was stranded in the human world. Now that he had awakened the bloodline of the stone statue race, although it was a little different from his ideal, it was still acceptable. Pooey. The system could not help but spit. Jun Changshao said, "You might think that I'm indulging in fantasy, but how do you explain the bloodline awakening?" Very simple. The system said, when the host was disturbed by the demonic aura, the stone statue flew out and merged into the host's body on its own. Only then did the host awaken the bloodline of the stone statue race. So in the end, the reason lies with that stone statue. Stone statue. Jun Changshao hurriedly looked into the space ring and found that the gargoyle-like thing was gone. The system said, "If I'm not wrong, the stone statue should contain the bloodline of the stone statue race." It successfully merged with the host in the crisis mode. What do you mean? Yes, although the host now has the bloodline of the stone statue race, but strictly speaking, the host is not a real stone statue race. At most, the host belongs to the bloodline inheritor or carrier. The system's analysis was reasonable, making Jun Changshao speechless. Sigh. He sighed and said, "Why is it so difficult to find a powerful identity?" After the system's earnest persuasion, and the fact that he has the bloodline of the stone statue race, Jun Changshao's bad mood gradually improved. In fact, spending all 3 points to obtain the bloodline of the stone statue race is a super profit. After all, the bloodline is not something that others can casually inherit. What's more, in the past, when he used the stone statue, he would gradually be devoured by the power and lose his rationality. Now that he inherits the bloodline, although it is a bit cruel and ruthless, at least he can control his thoughts and will not hurt the innocent. This is my trump card. Jun Changshao secretly said, "Awaken the bloodline and obtain the armament hockey." Is it a loss? Not a loss, a big gain. Snap. Jun Changshao jumped down from the stone, snapped his fingers, and said loudly, "Babies, return to the sect." After thinking it through, he felt refreshed. Seeing the patriarch recover from his depression, Li Qingyang breathed a sigh of relief and secretly said, "Junior brother Su's kick was not in vain." "Brother. Is there a forbidden area on the way back to the sect?" "Yes, there are a lot. Let's go in and have a look." Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and others' eyes suddenly lit up. This time, the patriarch will take them to the forbidden area, and there will be a big harvest in martial arts and resources. The major forbidden areas said that they are a little panicked now. Back to the time when Yao Menjing inherited the innate Saint Devil body, the blood pool in the ancient altar boiled again and sputtered bright red blood, adding another line to the huge black shadow on the wall. Although I can't rely on the land of demon affinity to resurrect my lord, it still doesn't hinder another resurrection plan. The eyes of the black-robed elder sitting in the east flashed with excitement. When they successfully bring back my lord's remnant soul and nourish it with the devil blood, it will be the day when the upper realm ushers in a nightmare. The other black-robed elders sitting in the other 3 positions were also very excited, as if they had fallen into a beautiful fantasy of the future. However, The elder in the east said solemnly, "We must find a way to enter the demonic territory as soon as possible and unseal the million demonic army. Only then can we assist the resurrected demonic lord to do great things in the upper realm. Only the Jia Hall knows the method of sealing. Let Jin Hao find it quickly, we can't delay any longer. That kid has been investigating Gu Zhaoxi recently, does he really think of himself as a member of the Jia Hall? After being a spy for so long, does he still want to be a good person? Pass down the order, he must find a way to break the seal of the demonic territory as soon as possible, otherwise, he can come back with his head." On a mountain peak, Jin Hao, who was wearing golden armor and sitting on a chariot, had received the order. He was quite dissatisfied and said, "If the method to break the seal can be found easily, why would I be a spy in the Jia Hall for so long? Coo. At this moment, a strange sound came from afar. Jin Hao got the information from it, smiled coldly, and said, "That guy actually dares to go to the forbidden area, isn't he afraid that he will die in there again?" Swoosh! The chariot cut through the sky. The direction was the forbidden area that Jun Changshao brought his disciples to. Chapter 1473. Ironwood Forest. Third-class forbidden area of the upper realm. Due to the fact that it produced trees that were as hard as iron, it got the name Ironwood Forest. Ironwood could be used to make equipment, so even if there were no treasures here, it would still attract many martial artists to mine it. At this moment, Jun Changshao led his disciples into the Ironwood Forest. The sound of the wind howling in the air seemed to indicate that the forbidden area was crying. The rogue cultivators who were entering and exiting noticed them, especially when they saw the word ancient written on it, and immediately determined their identity. Why are the people from the sect of all times here? Could it be that they're here for training? I heard that it was this sect that set the demonic fog forest on fire not long ago. Everyone discussed in private and subconsciously kept a distance from them, afraid that they would accidentally provoke them and be labeled as shameful villains. Picking up a rock when you go out is a divine weapon. The routine of meeting enemies in the wild did not apply to Jun Changshao, because any passerby with a bit of intelligence would avoid him. Of course. Go Sheng was not the kind of person who would cause trouble for no reason. This time, he came to the Ironwood Forest to bring his disciples for training, and at the same time, to obtain martial arts resources to comfort the dead three values. Masters Jr. Xiao Ziji stopped in front of a tree that seemed to be plated with a layer of iron, and said, "Is this ironwood?" "That's right." Gu Zhaoxi nodded. Bang! Xiao Ziji punched it, but the ironwood only shook and did not break, so he said in surprise, "This tree is so hard." Gu Zhaoxi said, "The older the ironwood, the stronger its defense, so it will become the best defensive material in the hands of a master blacksmith. You can bring it back and let Clan Master Fan refine it," Jun Changshao said while holding his chin. Although weapons and equipment could be forged in the blacksmith pavilion, they still needed materials and could not be mass-produced. If they used materials from the upper realm and let Fan Yezi refine it into equipment, it would undoubtedly improve the strength of the core. There was nothing wrong with this patriarch who was always thinking for the sect. Of course. As a certain reader who was known to be a hater, he would definitely overinterpret. "Don't just stand there." Jun Changshao said, "Let's start mining." Yes. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others took out their sharp swords and asked, "Patriarch, how many do you want to bring back?" "Of course I'm taking them all," Jun Changshao said. Understood. They came to the iron tree that Xiao Ziji had found, cut it down quickly, and then divided it into several pieces and threw them into the space. The whole process could be described as simple and quick. Because they were on the outskirts of the forbidden area, trees that were as hard as iron were not commonly seen. Li Qingyang and the others searched for more than half a circle and only managed to cut down 4 or 5 trees. Thus, they had no choice but to head to the deepest part of the forbidden area. However, they ran into some trouble during the cutting process. This was because the older and better the quality of the ironwood, the more likely it was to be accompanied by iron armor demonic beasts. Ding! Li Qingyang brandished his sword and slashed it down, causing sparks to fly. Gu Zhaoxi said, "This kind of demonic beast that lives on ironwood has an extremely strong defense, and the iron armor on its body is also very suitable for making equipment. Then we'll take them with us." Since they had come to the treasure mountain, they would definitely take everything they could. As a result, Li Qingyang had another mission to hunt down the iron armored demonic beasts while cutting down the iron wood. Die! Hoo! An unparalleled power erupted from the halberd, and dozens of iron armored demonic beasts were cut in half at the waist in an area where the ironwood gathered. The scene was extremely brutal and bloody. Shua! Su Xiaomua took a step forward with his two long legs and stored the iron armor scattered on the ground into his space ring as quickly as possible. Li Qingyang and Xiao Ziji were responsible for cutting down the iron wood, while he and Yi Xingchen were responsible for dealing with the demonic beasts. Because of the clear division of labor, the collection of resources was very efficient, and they had a great harvest in a short period of time. The martial artists who followed in were dumbfounded. If this kind of cutting and hunting speed continued for a period of time, the ironwood forest would definitely cease to exist. This is too scary. This is simply a merciless sweep. Is the ironwood forest going to follow in the footsteps of the demonic mist forest? No. We can't fall behind. We have to take this opportunity to cut down a few more iron wood, or else we won't have another chance in the future. Because the Sect of All Time's disciples were crazily cutting down the iron wood and attracting a large number of iron-armored demonic beasts, the martial artists were suddenly emboldened. Everyone! Jun Changshao said indifferently, "The ironwood here belongs to my Sect of All Times. If any of you dare to take one, I will go to your house tomorrow to eat." The disciples were in the front to lure the beasts, and you guys were in the back to pick up the leftovers. There was no such good thing in the world. Who? A powerful aura instantly erupted, causing the martial artists to tremble in fear. Fine. You are strong, you have the final say. The martial artists hurriedly gave up on the idea of cutting down the iron wood and turned into the purest spectators. They watched as the disciples of the Sect of All Times put the iron wood into their spatial rings, their eyes filled with envy and jealousy. Roar! Roar! Suddenly, a deafening roar came from the depths of the forest. A huge iron-armored demonic beast that looked like a 1,000-year-old tortoise gradually stood up. A demonic beast king. Wasn't this guy sealed by the World Hall? The martial artists' eyes were filled with shock. They immediately turned and fled without looking back. With their strength, it was already very difficult to deal with a few iron-armored demonic beasts, not to mention a demonic beast king. Thus, fleeing was a wise choice. Brother! Gu Zhaoxi said, something's not right. He had naturally heard that a demonic beast king was sealed in the ironwood forest. Now that it suddenly appeared, it was a little strange. Jun Changxiao's eyes gradually turned cold. The appearance of the iron-armored demonic beast king reminded him of the demonic fog forest's demonic beast king, so he thought to himself, someone is secretly causing trouble again. In another direction of the ironwood forest. Whoosh! The flowing light gradually dissipated, and Jin Hao walked out from it. The demonic beast king of this third-class forbidden area may not be a fatal threat to that guy, but it should be able to cause some trouble. The corners of his mouth rose slightly, and a smile appeared on his face that deserved a beating. The area covered by the flowing light just now was the place where the demonic beast king was sealed. Now that the latter suddenly appeared, it definitely had something to do with Jin Hao. In other words, the sudden appearance of the demonic beast king in the demonic fog forest was also his doing. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so skilled. Jun Changshao. Jin Hao jumped onto the chariot, crossed his legs, and said, although you have Jinren Tonggu as your backer, I actually have many ways to kill you. Is that so? Suddenly, a voice came from behind him. The smile on Jin Hao's face froze. He turned around and saw the guy he hated walking over step by step. Have I been discovered? He said nonchalantly. Jun Changshao stopped a few dozen feet away from the chariot, shook his head, and said, I thought it was Empress Ling Yao who was secretly plotting against the sect of all times. I didn't expect it to be you, the loser. The words, loser, deeply provoked Jin Hao. He said with a ferocious face, Kid, you are just relying on the treasure. Without it, you are not even a dog in front of me. Idiot. An angry voice came from the other side, clean your mouth. Jin Hao looked back and saw a young boy about 12 or 13 years old on his right, so he sneered, a kid who hasn't even grown hair yet dares to call himself a master. Brother. Gu Zhaoxi said with a gloomy face, this guy is asking for a beating. Crack crack crack. Jun Changshao shook his arms and head, and communicated with the stone statue tribe bloodline in his body. His skin gradually turned into stone, and he said, since he is asking for a beating, then let's beat him to death today. Okay. Gu Zhaoxi clenched his fist, and said, when brothers are of one mind, their sharpness can cut through metal. Chapter 1474. As soon as the iron-armored demon king appeared, Jun Changshao immediately released his spiritual sense and scanned every corner of the forbidden area. He easily found Jin Hao who was playing tricks. Damn it! It was this guy. At first, Jun Changshao thought it was Empress Ling Yao. After all, she was the most suspicious. He didn't consider the golden-haired guy that he had severely injured. It made sense. The golden-haired guy's chest was pierced. He would definitely find a chance to take revenge. But he didn't expect the people from the realm hall to be so despicable. Jin Hao, who had been caught red-handed, did not panic. To be exact, he didn't care about being discovered. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so brazen. Brother. In this cruel world, we're used. Jin Hao jumped down from the chariot. His golden armor shone brightly. The special effect was even higher than last time. Facing Jun Changshao and Gu Zhaoxi, he wasn't weak at all. After all, he was a real 9th transformation stage. On the other hand, the former was an 8th transformation stage and the latter was a 6th transformation stage. If it was someone else, they would have run away. 8 and 6 couldn't be 14th transformation stage. Of course. Jun Changshao and Gu Zhaoxi wouldn't run away. After all, they were the typical examples of people who didn't want to die. Their goal was the same. They had to torture this golden-haired guy to death. Huff. Jun Changshao activated the stone statue bloodline. His skin gradually turned to stone. Gu Zhaoxi also realized the opponent's strength. He didn't hide his strength at all. Brothers of life and death, facing the enemy together. Although the battle hadn't started, from the murderous aura in the air, it was obviously going to be fierce. It would be at least 3 to 5 chapters. I suggest you skip it. Boom. Boom. In the depths of the ironwood forest, Xiao Ziji was heavily armed. He fired his machine gun at full power and cooperated with Yi Xingqian to gank the armored demon king. Although the 5-man team had Lu Qianqian, the mage in the middle lane, they had Su Xiaoma, the wandering assassin. Their teamwork was still strong. Roar. The iron-armored monster king roared in anger after being hit by so many attacks. The monster king's demonic energy erupted and the iron trees were uprooted from the ground. Under the flowing light, they turned into sharp thorns. Swish. Swish. Shield up. As the sharp thorns approached, Xiao Ziji switched from an offensive state to a defensive state. Numerous shield-shaped barriers appeared in front of everyone. Ding! 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 Although the iron wood was extremely sharp under the enhancement of strength, when it collided with the shield, it was all bounced back and then stabbed into the ground in a crooked manner. Die! While the target was attacking, Yi Xingqian took advantage of the opening and jumped over. His sky piercer drew a bright arc in the air and ruthlessly swept the armor. Boom boom boom. The surrounding ironwood was broken into 2 pieces. There are only some scratches on the iron shell of the iron-armored Demon King Sword Shadow. Obviously, its defense is not weaker than Xiao Ziji's when the words are activated. In terms of strength, this beast is obviously stronger than the demonic fog monster king, especially in terms of hardcore defense. However, this third-class forbidden area has no demonic fog and will not affect the soul. Therefore, in terms of danger, it is not as dangerous as the demonic fog forest. Although Li Qingyang and the others can't do anything to it for the time being, it is hard to say if they can exhaust it. On the other side, Jun Changshao, Gu Zhaoxi, and Jin Hao started fighting. The 3 of them are all high-level revolving core realm, so their attacks have their own special effects. Especially when they attack, the movement is very explosive. Heaven crossing palm print. Hoo hoo. Hoo hoo hoo. The palm prints in the sky gathered together and interweaved into an inescapable net. Gu Zhaoxi has learned many martial arts before. He can even be described as a walking martial arts framework. However, after joining the Sect of all times and learning the unique martial arts, he realized that what he learned before is nothing. Boom! 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 The powerful palm prints crazily pressed down, and the ground trembled violently under the attack. The violent energy spread in all directions wave after wave. The martial artists who have retreated to the periphery of the ironwood forest are stunned. The battle between the Sect of all times and the iron-armored monster king is already intense enough. No one expected an even more intense battle to come from the other direction. Boom! Suddenly, a golden light burst out from the depths, causing the martial artists to close their eyes. Dang dang dang! Gu Zhaoxi staggered back, grimacing in pain as he clutched his chest. In the area full of palm prints, Jin Hao walked out step by step. His whole body is shrouded in golden light, and a look of disdain appeared on his face. Is this all you can do? Swish! Suddenly, Jun Changshao flew over from the side with the brush in his hand. His strokes were as powerful as lightning, and he used all his strength to draw a large character in the air. Buzz buzz buzz. In an instant, the words exploded in front of Jin Hao like a bomb. Huff huff. The violent energy was like a tsunami as it pressed down in all directions, instantly destroying the nearby rocks and trees. Brother actually knows this move. Gu Zhaoxi was surprised. Swish! Suddenly, Jin Hao rushed out from the violent airwaves and threw a seemingly simple right hook in slow motion. Huff huff. The golden energy burst out, and a fist shadow appeared. Boom! Gu Zhaoxi used his left cheek to take the heavy punch. His whole body was lifted off the ground, and he smashed more than 10 ironwood trees before falling to the ground in a sorry state. Jun Changshao's sneak attacked him, and he got beaten up in return. Exquisite! Damn it! Gu Zhaoxi jumped up and covered his swollen left cheek. His eyes flashed with anger, and then he bit his right thumb and said, "I will kill you." Boom! In an instant, his body expanded. He originally looked weak, but now he was quite sturdy. Body transformation technique? Jin Hao was stunned at first, but then he sneered and said, "So you are the traitor who went against the Jie Hall, Gu Zhaoxi." This kind of martial art that could change one's body in an instant was one of Gu Zhaoxi's signature martial arts. So when he used it, it was equivalent to telling others his identity. TSK. The patriarch of the Sect of all times and the traitor call each other brothers. This is interesting. Jin Hao's smile grew. He had been playing dirty in the dark, mainly because he represented the Jie Hull. He could not be too obvious. Now that the other party was colluding with the traitor, he had a good reason to attack. According to the rules of the Jie Hull, anyone who is related to the traitor will be classified as the same kind. Jun Changshao, since you call Gu Zhaoxi brother, I will execute my authority today and kill you in the ironwood forest. Huff huff. Huff huff huff. Jin Hao's cultivation erupted again, and the murderous intent in his eyes grew stronger. Earlier, he was just playing with you. Now that he was involved with Gu Zhaoxi, he instantly entered the "I'm going to get serious" state. Kill me. Jun Changshao sneered and said, no one in this world can do that. Ka ka ka. The stone statue bloodline in his body was activated crazily. His originally stone-colored skin gradually turned into stone, and his appearance also changed from a human to a stone statue ghost. Gu Zhaoxi said in shock, this guy is from the stone statue race. Boom. Before he finished speaking, Jun Changshao had already appeared in front of him, and his stone-like right fist came crashing down. Thump thump thump. The powerful force instantly pushed Jin Hao back a few steps, and the arm he used to block the attack felt a faint pain. Jun Changshao, who was standing in his previous position, had a cruel and bloodthirsty look in his eyes. Go Sheng, who was only at the 6th transformation, not only became emotionless after his bloodline was fully activated, but he also turned into a violent warrior. Ta! Gu Zhaoxi, who had grown bigger and stronger, walked over. One brother was like a killing god, while the other was like a demon. They sandwiched Jin Hao in the middle. Woo-woo! Cold and fierce winds blew in the ironwood forest, as if crying that he would not live for long. Chapter 1475. Whether Jun Changshao and Gu Zhaoxi could deal with Jin Hao would only be known in the end. However, it was certain that the ironwood forest would be heavily damaged or even destroyed. This third-class forbidden land could not withstand a fight between immortals. Moreover, the 5-man team from the Sect of all times was still fighting with the iron-armored Demon King. Although they were not as powerful as a high-level revolving core realm, neither side could do anything to the other. If they continued fighting, it would only result in the destruction of the surrounding environment. Da-da-da. Da-da-da. Bullets shot out from the glowing blue muzzle. Although they could not break through the Demon King's tough armor, they still left thousands of holes in the nearby ironwood trees. Total annihilation. Yi Xingchen wielded the heavenly halberd and displayed his skills like an unparalleled war god. Large swathes of trees were cut in half. The battle gradually reached its climax. The destruction was also increasing. It's over. The ironwood forest is finished. Seeing large amounts of trees that could be used as materials being destroyed, the cultivators watching from afar were heartbroken. After all, they were all shiny Xian stones. Boom! 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 The battle on the other side was even more exciting because 3 types of violent energy had erupted, destroying the surroundings with an unstoppable force. Because of the energy fluctuations, even the ground had begun to crack. The ironwood trees could grow again if they were gone. Once the soil that nurtured these plants was destroyed, it would be fatal. The cultivators did not have time to feel sorry for the third-class forbidden land. As the battle became more and more intense, they could only retreat, afraid of being involved. Boom! 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 Jun Changshao, who had completely transformed into a gargoyle, seemed to have turned into a fierce and fast boxer. He used all kinds of moves to attack Jin Hao. Under the explosion of energy, every punch of his had the special effect of tearing space. As one of the 3 strongest races, the gargoyle race did not have any deep understanding of martial arts. They always pursued fast, ruthless, and accurate. To put it bluntly, it was a race that could fight a tough battle and was good at it. Jun Changshao, who had transformed into a gargoyle, displayed this characteristic to the fullest. At this moment, he had completely abandoned the flowery human appearance. Even the most ordinary of moves contained the power of 10,000 caddies. Jin Hao was caught in a stalemate. He did not have the time to gather his strength to unleash any martial arts techniques. He could only passively fall into his opponent's rhythm. Furthermore, he had to constantly pay attention to the traitor behind him, whose physique was increasing. Gu Zhaoxi was not in a hurry to make a move. In his opinion, his brother, who had activated the bloodline of the stone statue, would not be at a disadvantage for a short period of time. He could totally take advantage of his brother's unpreparedness to steal the peach or something similar. You set me up, I set you up. This was because it was impolite not to reciprocate. Boom! At this time, Jun Changshao and Jin Hao had exchanged more than 10 moves, and both of them were forced to retreat a few steps. With the support of the stone statue bloodline, although he possessed more violent power than before, it was impossible for him to suppress a 9th transformation Dan realm expert. Chance! Gu Zhaoxi finally grasped the opportunity. While Jin Hao had yet to make a move, he rushed over. It looked like he was attacking from 3 directions, but in reality, he was delivering an extremely vicious kick to Jin Hao's crotch. When such a sinister move was executed by a high-level core transformation realm expert, the energy it gathered could be said to be quite explosive. It did not even seem sinister. In fact, one would even feel a sense of awe. A weakling using a sinister move was vulgar, but an expert using a sinister move was noble. Watch! Clang! Faster than words could tell, the right leg that had gathered explosive strength kicked Jin Hao's crotch from behind. The sound of metal colliding rang out. Ah! Ah! Gu Zhaoxi retracted his leg and jumped up and down, howling in pain. He had kicked an ideal spot, but Jin Hao had already formed an absolute defense. This kick was like kicking a spiked iron plate. An intense pain came from his calf bone, as if it was about to break. Boom! Jin Hao turned around and sent Gu Zhaoxi flying with a kick. When he retracted his leg and stood up proudly, one could see that his exposed skin was as dazzling as his battle armor. You have the body transformation art. You have the stone statue race bloodline. Sorry, I also have a way to increase my strength. Jun Changshao frowned. Jin Hao's entire body had turned golden, and his strength had obviously increased. He and his brother might not be able to take advantage of him. Kid! Jin Hao shook his head, and the arrogance on his face grew. 2 years ago, you relied on your supreme treasure to injure me. Now that you don't have that trump card, you're just trash. Thank you for the reminder. Jun Changshao waved his hand, and the divine modified lightning rod appeared in his hand. Seeing the supreme treasure that had pierced through his chest, Jin Hao's smile disappeared, and a trace of fear flashed in his eyes. Gu Zhaoxi thought joyfully, brother still has a trick up his sleeve. The appearance of the divine modified lightning rod had indeed intimidated Jin Hao. However, after a while, he sneered and said, although that thing in your hand is powerful, it can only be used once. During the 2 years he had been recuperating, he had been thinking about why there had been such an intense lightning punishment when his chest had been pierced. Could it be that the guy's supreme treasure had absorbed the lightning punishment of the formation of 10,000 thunder tribulation? If that was the case, it meant that the explosive power of the item did not come from the supreme treasure itself. It could only be used after accumulating a special power. Another reason why Jin Hao was certain that the divine modified lightning rod could not pose a threat to him was that if this treasure was effective, it would have attacked him long ago. To put it bluntly, Jun Changshao took out a gun, and he bet that there were no bullets in it. Have I been seen through? Jun Changshao shook his head helplessly. Gu Zhaoxi was speechless. He had thought that his brother had taken out something like an iron rod as a trump card, but it turned out to be a bluff. The worst thing was that he had not been bluffed, and he had been mercilessly exposed. Whoosh! Jin Hao raised his hand, and a golden spear appeared out of thin air. You are quite lucky to be able to survive the punishment of the dimensional battlefield and the formation of 10,000 tribulation heavenly thunder. However, your luck will run out one day. So, in the end, you will still be. He grabbed his weapon and said with a cold gaze, unable to escape death. Whoosh! The golden light flickered, and the space trembled violently. Holy golden spear! Gu Zhaoxi hurriedly transmitted his voice, brother, this is a divine weapon that is infinitely close to the immortal level. Ta! At this moment, Jin Hao placed the golden spear in front of him. The golden attribute that spread out seemed to turn into roaring golden dragon beasts, and they gradually lingered around his body. The special effect was once again pulled to the extreme. Whoosh! 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 The special effect of the high-level divine weapon and the power of the true spirit erupted crazily, instantly forming an extremely strong pressure. Not only did it disturb the battlefield crazily, but it also spread far away. What kind of power is this? It's too scary. The warriors who had retreated to the outermost periphery of the ironwood forest felt the golden light rippling from the depths, gathering around them and causing the space to tremble. Their expressions changed drastically. Ninth Transformation Core Realm Cultivation, coupled with a weapon that was close to the immortal level, caused a huge phenomenon. This kind of tearing special effect caused the reader's phones to rapidly heat up, as if they would explode at any time. What are you looking at? Throw it away quickly. However, just as Jin Hao was about to attack, Jun Changshao pointed at the lightning rod and pressed the start button with his thumb. He said coldly, "Go and meet God." What? Whoosh! Suddenly, the ironwood forest that was originally covered by the golden light was replaced by a white light. An extremely strong vibration came from the ground, and the violent power of thunder and lightning crazily surged. Boom! A deafening explosion came, and Li Qingyang and the other four all stopped and looked back. The iron-armored Beast King's eyes were filled with fear, because as far as he could see, a deep trench appeared out of nowhere, as if it had directly divided the ironwood forest into two. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.